Buddy, I am going to call to order the June 12th, 2024 Planning Board meeting. Could we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chair, Jason hasn't arrived yet, so maybe you could appoint Tony to...
Yes, I'm going to appoint Mr. D to vote for Jason.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That'll give us 8 voting members.
All right, so we have some administrative board work. We have approval of the June 5th meeting minutes. Would we be all right with holding off until July, once we get through all the June meetings? Are you all right with that?
Yes, please. I haven't even had a chance to look at them yet, so...
Fantastic.
I noticed right away the votes, the whole thing was off by 1.
Yep.
So
Sure.
whoever takes the minutes is not a mathematician.
That's all right. Regional impact determinations. Kelly?
None this evening, Mr. Chair.
Fantastic. Discussions with town staff. It looks like we have an extension request for the Ptor site plan. Kelly, you have anything on that?
The applicant's requesting an extension to August 14th.
Sure.
If the board has any specific questions, Eric Mitchell is present this
Okay.
evening.
Anybody have anything?
Things are moving along, Eric, on that, okay?
We're gonna have to get it moved along. I know we've been asked for continuances, but yes, we expect to be done by, August.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I will look for a motion to grant a continuance for the Ptor site
Before
plan
you
to
do
August.
that, sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I just thought of something.
Not a
Just for the
problem.
record, do we get to a point where after X number, you say you gotta reapply, or do we just keep allowing the extensions?
It's up to the board. That's why we bring the extensions to you. So if the board feels they need to see the whole thing, the entire application again, then you would not grant the extension and they.
Right. So by statute, we have no,
No, as
We
so
can
long
just
as
keep
they
extending.
continue to request extensions.
Okay.
We've had one, I think, went almost 2 years.
okay,
Oh.
thank you.
So with that, I'm looking for a motion.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'll take a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? And the chair votes in the affirmative. You have been extended to August 14th.
All right,
Thank you, sir. All right, we have Southern New Hampshire Plumbing has also requested a continuance. I am looking for a motion to grant the extension request to August 14th.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the chair votes in the affirmative. This has been moved to August 14th. Kelly?
Just to note that continuance was for item 4B on the agenda this evening.
Yes.
So I don't know if there are any abutters present.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience for Southern New Hampshire Plumbing? Should be good. Thank you, Kelly.
Okay, so I thought I saw somebody nodding heads. If you are, it's been changed.
You
to a
should give
different
an
name.
announcement again.
Yeah, so if you're here for Southern New Hampshire Planning, Southern New Hampshire Planning. If you're here for Southern New Hampshire Plumbing, it has been continued to August 14th, so it'll be heard on August 14th. Okay?
Is that AK Investments? 'Cause I don't see Southern New Hampshire Planning.
Yeah.
on the list.
4B. It's, yeah. those-
39 Rockingham Road.
Yeah, the warehouse,
Yeah.
office space.
But it doesn't say Southern New Hampshire Planning.
Let's see, and we also have here. That was Eric, so we're good there, we're good there. Kelly, update on the master plan.
Yes, Mr. Chair, after last week's meeting, at the board's request, we posted the 2 at-large positions on the master plan steering committee, so we should be expecting applications for those 2 positions. I also sent emails to the boards and commissions that will be participating in the steering committee as well. So we should be on track to have applications for the steering committee in by the 26th of June and have your interviews take place at your July 10th meeting.
Fantastic. So, if anybody who's looking to be a part of the, any residents looking to be part of the master plan committee, please consider applying. Anything else from the board on that?
That require the talent bank
That's correct. The
form?
talent bank form can be found online. All right. So we are going to get into old business. We've got a public hearing on an application for formal review of a site plan for a 96-unit multifamily residential development and associated site improvements in the multifamily residential R3 district, 35 Gilchrist Road, tax map 7, lot 118. Gilchrist Realty Holdings LLC is the owner and applicant, continued from March 6th, April 3rd, and May 1st. And we did accept this as complete on May 1st. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
I think we granted six of the waivers anyway, we've granted at our May 1st meeting.
Yep, that's correct. Okay. All right, gentlemen, the floor is yours.
All right. Good evening. My name's Joseph Maynard. I'm with Benchmark LLC. Beside me here is Kim Hazavadian from TEP LLC, our traffic consultant. Just a little refresher. It's a 96-unit project on a piece of land that's zoned Residence 3. Ultimately, it used to be an apple orchard. Before that, it was row crops. Nothing's really been done to the property since around 2006. The proposal, when we left the last meeting, we had gone through the waivers. There was one waiver that was still outstanding. That waiver deals with our on-site improvements. So primarily what we do with these applications is we ask for a waiver to this requirement so that we can put the finished pavement down after we've sold units. Typically, there's still construction going on the property. Therefore, there's equipment that's going in and out of the road. And if we put a finish coat down, we'd be redoing the finish coat numerous times. So a bond is put in place for that. And that one waiver is still an outstanding waiver. The other thing that came up through the conversation is my client is proposing a small park. It's called Lincoln Park. At the last meeting, there was some concern about an additional curb cut out to Gilchrist Road. We've left this in our traffic study to show that it really is a small percentage of vehicle trips that will be going in and out of this area. We did look at trying to make a change to the plan to modify it so that a drive could possibly come from the development. With the stage the engineering's at now, the layout of the property, it just is not feasible with that portion of it. I do want to point out that technically under the R3, an amenity like this is technically not required. My client says he's going to leave it up to the board to make a decision on if the driveway can stay, or if not, they'd be willing to just remove that amenity from the project. I think the biggest part of the discussion that we had at the last meeting dealt with traffic. I think we've made huge jumps forward in that with a revision that was done to the study. Kim is here to be able to address any of those questions that might come up from that. But I think those were the big three things that came out of the last meeting that we were still hanging on, was the waiver, the park, and the traffic. So Kim, you want to talk about traffic? Oh, here.
Good evening. I'm Kim Hazvardian, a traffic engineer with TEP LLC. Since the last meeting, we've consulted with town staff and the town's peer review consultant on traffic. And we responded to the last round of comments on the traffic impact study. And in conjunction with Howard Stein Hudson, we provided a response to comments that addressed the 7 comments that were remaining. And we also prepared a revised traffic impact study that we submitted more recently to the town that I don't believe the town has been able to review yet. The town did review the response to comments and issued a memorandum back on that. And let me just flip to that in my packet here. On the 7 comments, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the comments say comment has been addressed, no further action required. And then comment 1 the town asked us to look at the pandemic factor that's used to increase traffic volumes if necessary from conditions now post-pandemic compared to conditions before, pre-pandemic. And we used a 3% increase based on review of applicable count stations. And the town's consultant reviewed what we did and was in agreement, and the final traffic impact study will reflect those numbers in its networks. In fact, the one the town has now does reflect it. Comment 3 dealt with the signalized intersection of Nashua Road and Gilchrist, and we changed the analysis. The analysis was showing some queuing on the various approaches. We looked at the signal timing that New Hampshire DOT provided and compared with field conditions. And since the DOT collected and kept its data, some changes have been made to the signal timing, and there are what are called right turn overlaps there. So some of the side street, or some of the movements can move out of a street and turn right the same time a left turn is turning into the street without conflicting. So in other words, someone making a right out of Gilchrist gets a green arrow out of Gilchrist northbound. At the same time that someone turning left from Nashua Road into Gilchrist southbound gets its green arrow to make that movement. And I believe 3 out of the 4 approaches have that overlap, and that overlap basically adds capacity and reduce queuing. That is that revised analysis is in this response to comments that Hoyle Tanner reviewed, and is also in the revised traffic impact study. Hoyle Tanner also provided some other comments, and I'll just quickly walk through those. These are new comments, and the first comment is to include capacity analysis reports in the final traffic impact study, which has been done and will be done. And they found in their comment too several typos that will be taken care of. The third comment deals with the playground, and Mr. Maynard addressed that one already. And that concludes their old comments and our responses, and their new comments, and the fact that anything that was a typo or needed to be added will be included in the final traffic impact study. And I'd be happy to answer any questions at all.
Thank you, sir. So I am going to start with staff, see if staff has anything to say. We'll come to the board, and then we'll open it up to the public.
Nothing to add at this time.
Thank you, John. Kelly?
All set for now.
All right. Board, do we have any questions?
Was the southern end of Gilchrist Road analyzed also for an extra lane as needed?
Yes, that was analyzed.
Okay. And what was the result of the analysis?
The result of the analysis, first of all, it wasn't analyzed in terms of being mitigation for the project. The project doesn't meet the mitigation threshold. Adding that second lane makes a little difference, not a lot of difference. That's something, if the town wants to see changes there, they ought to take a more complete look at the intersection.
Mm-hmm. That's your conclusion.
My conclusion is it did not, adding that lane in and of itself did not make a big difference at the intersection.
Okay. What's the big difference? What is a big difference and what isn't a big difference?
It didn't, let me get to the results.
I looked at the numbers, but I don't recall them at the moment, so.
Yeah,
I'd
I sort
be
of
like
recall,
you,
but I
digging
better look it
through
up
'em.
to recall better. Okay, I'm looking at page 8 of our response to comments memo. In the morning peak hour, level of service really isn't much of an issue there. The afternoon peak hour shows the level of service, and we have movements at levels of service E and F both without that added lane and with the added lane. The only benefit that looks somewhat apparent is if you add that second lane, if you're going down Gilchrist headed south and you want to make a right turn into South Road, because you have your own lane to do it from, that movement gets better. It goes up to a level of service C. But the intersection overall, not a substantial difference. That one movement gets help.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you. So just to follow up on that, is your conclusion about that intersection, was still on that intersection, a result of an opinion that most of the traffic coming out of this new development is gonna go north on Gilchrist? Or not?
Well, the project as a whole, the generation of the project is less than 100 peak hour vehicle trips. Even if you combine this, the traffic study we did deals with this project as well as the project across the street. They were both analyzed as one project. And the analysis was based on assigning most of the traffic to and from the north. If you look at all of the traffic, though, and add it up, it's not a large number in terms of traffic engineering, so it's not going to be very sensitive. If more trips are routed that way, it would not make a substantial difference.
I have a follow-up, please.
Yes, sir.
So is there any indication on if exit 4A is gonna make any difference on Gilchrist Road, or is that not a factor?
We didn't take advantage of exit 4A. It may allow people in the area to route more efficiently, and maybe some people wouldn't route through that area who wouldn't otherwise. But I don't know that. I haven't really studied it. But we didn't take advantage of any benefits of 4A.
Does staff have an opinion on that question?
I think you're too far away, Tony.
Okay. Thank you.
Is the level of service E and F, is that before and after build-out?
That is before and after build-out.
So it's already E and F.
It's already E and F.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ann?
I was the one that brought up about that extra driveway onto Gilchrist for that park. I asked why an outlet is needed onto Gilchrist Road for the road accessing Ling Park. This is from the minutes from the last meeting. It is designed for, if it is designed for residents, and you came back with, it provides handicap accessibility. And I noted my concern about the traffic slowing on Gilchrist Road to access this road. And I thought it'd be best to install wider pathways for somebody that's handicapped. Now, I noticed in your drawings that you have, I should look at it on the screen, site 5 site plan -1. You have handicap parking on the northern side of that circle there. Is that correct? Where the sports courts are.
Yes.
Now, I was assuming that the handicap would be more or less children. And I see playgrounds on the south side of that circle and bench seating and no handicapped parking. So wouldn't it be best to put the handicap parking there instead of the sports courts?
On the playground side instead
On
of
the
the sports
playground
court?
side, yeah.
It could be reversed. I don't think it makes a difference to the design. We only had limited parking up there, and it was primarily just for that purpose.
Right, I know, but when you think about it, an older person, sports courts, will they be able to use the sports courts? I'm thinking of somebody if in a wheelchair that might be more disabled than that can play basketball or something like that. You know, more like somebody younger who might need some playtime in the playground. Are any of your units handicapped accessible?
So the design of the units is not required for an elevator or anything like that
Right.
within the structures. So I'd say no, they're not technically fully handicap accessible between all three levels.
Okay. So to get to the bedroom, it's not handicap accessible?
I don't, to that end,
Okay, I just want
That's more
to,
building specific, not so much site plan specific, so I
I-
think we're getting a little off on it.
but I'm looking at the reasons these things are there.
Yep.
And I really think that it's still a dangerous spot for people to be exiting this development, taking a right, slowing down to go into this this playground area and out. And I'm a little disappointed that you couldn't find a way to incorporate it into the development instead of having them drive around, getting cars and drive around.
Mr. D, you looked like you had a question?
I just think I think the whole thing is, I like having a place for, in these developments, for kids to play or whatever. I think, from a safety perspective, this is an attractive nuisance. I think it's gonna be a 24/7 problem with weekend kids finding a basketball hoop at 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever, parking on the side of the street or whatever. I think it's badly placed on the site. I know you didn't have a choice, but given the choice, I would not have it. I think having the third curb cut is a particular problem on this very busy road. And one person's opinion is take it out, put grass there. I don't think it serves the purpose that you're trying to put it. I'll say it one more time. I think it's an attractive nuisance. I think it's gonna be a constant problem. I'd like to hear from the people that are here to talk as well.
Sure.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the board before I go to the public? No?
I just wanted to correct a little bit of my testimony.
Sure.
When I said the project generated less than 200 trips, the two projects combined, less than 100 trips, it dawned on me, when we analyzed just the residential units, it was under 100 trips. When we add the playground in, it ticks it up to 101 during the PM peak hour. I'm just saying that to be completely accurate.
Thank you. All right, folks, so this is a public hearing. At this time, we're going to open up comments to the public. If you could come up, state your name and address, and the microphone's all yours. How you doing?
Hello, good evening. My name is Tanya Hines. I live at 9 Ross Drive. So I have a few questions. Is that okay?
If you could just address your questions to me, not the applicant, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
So are the site plans available for a public viewing?
Yes.
Where?
So you can access those through Kelly at the planning department. How long has this been in for, how long has the application been in? How long have you had the plans?
Since the fall,
Since the fall.
August of 2023, so we sent notices at that time,
Okay.
and then.
So in this building, it's upstairs.
Yep.
In the
Okay.
planning department, all the
Second.
rooms are pretty well marked.
So they're not available online?
They used to be,
They're
but
not available online.
They're not available
Not-
online right now. no.
Why?
It's not required.
Say that again?
We're not required to have them available online, but we can email them to you, should you want them electronically. We used to have applications online, but that software service is no longer.
Okay. Okay,
So
good to
you
know.
can leave your email address.
Yeah, if you,
With
so
Kelly.
Kelly is our town planner and economic, director of economic development. So please feel free to, if you'd like to give her your email, she'll take care of anything that you might need.
Definitely, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll reach out. What are the egress points for the development? That's not quite clear to me.
So there's three out of the development. There's two roads that come out of the development, and then there's a third curb cut inside of the playground area, which is directly across from Albany Ave, as you can see in the picture right there. So the development kind of, if you can get a full picture, Kelly, I don't know if you have one
Have
that's,
a full,
yeah. So the development itself, essentially, there's 2 exits in and 2 exits out of the development.
Okay. Alrighty. And so one is for this park.
Yes, so that's the third entry that we were just talking about. That services just the park itself. It does not service the development. So the entry into the park does not get you into the neighborhood, if you will.
Okay. And so the others are across from Albany Ave?
No,
The
that's
one
a
across from
playground.
Albany is the park.
Okay, that is the park.
The other ones are just north of that and
Okay.
just south of it.
Right across Boston.
Yeah, I
And
believe the
Boston.
southern one is Boston and Albany, Boston and Gilchrist, yes.
Is there another one that comes out by Home Depot?
Not that far down. It's north, but it's not that far down. It's just north of Albany.
Albany.
Okay. And so as there is a decline from Gilchrist coming, from 102 coming down Gilchrist, I think that may be south.
Yes.
I don't know, I was curious if the average rate of speed was calculated during the traffic study from the descent from 102 down Gilchrist to this entrance, or to these entrances.
Ken, is that factored into, is a speed limit factored into the traffic study?
Only in some of the analytical details, it doesn't make a significant difference.
Okay, thank you.
Right, and then another question is the supplemental lane that is coming out of Home Depot. I think it's like a turn lane that comes onto Gilchrist.
If you're leaving Home Depot?
Yeah, if you're
Yep.
leaving Home Depot, are there any?
Going south.
Heading south, so
Yes,
you're
heading
taking a
south,
right
heading
out of Home
south.
Depot, taking a right.
So that would, sometimes it services traffic coming off of 102 or Gilchrist on the other side of 102. Is there any plans within this site plan to extend that lane to the beginning of the entrance and egresses points for the
I think I
development?
might be in the wrong spot of, I'm thinking you're coming right out of Home Depot. I was thinking you were talking about the Home Depot drive-through. Or driveway, curb cut, whatever you want to call it. You're talking about where it merges at Hannaford's, where it narrows at Hannaford's.
Yes, so it goes
Yes.
down just past Hannaford's.
Yes. So can you guys I know it doesn't, but can you explain that a little bit more as to the reasoning behind why there is no need for that
Extension of
improvement?
that lane?
Yeah.
I was actually involved with, I believe I was involved with that many years
The
ago.
original extension.
Yeah,
Yep.
and the intent was, the travel desire is from Nashua Road to Home Depot in Hannaford. That was the draw. So we carried it, we carried the 2-lane cross-section to deal with that draw. And then after that, you get into the residential neighborhood with a narrower street perhaps fitting better.
And that would be, I guess, to justify the extension into Home Depot and Hannaford's, if you will, the traffic volume from Gilchrist Road going into both of those developments is significantly more than what would be going into, what is it, Elise Avenue? Elise Avenue, so, if I'm understanding that correctly, they don't meet a threshold to, the amount of traffic going into Elise Avenue does not trigger the need for the extension, much like Home Depot does. And these are by no numbers that I might know, but, Home Depot might have 5,000 cars that go into that curb cut a day or that driving lane a day, which warrants that need for an expansion there. Whereas, Elise Ave might only have 100, 200 cars that go in and out through the entire day. So from their study, it's saying that they don't meet that threshold based off of whatever international traffic code of whatever that you guys talk about when you come up here, doesn't meet that threshold to warrant it.
What is the threshold?
Actually, that situation is a fairly urban situation, and you take a look at the volumes and apply engineering judgment. If this were a more rural or higher speed situation, since that project was done, the Transportation Research Board has put out some thresholds, but you'd probably use those more on Nashua Road as you're heading out toward the west, as opposed to a more built-up, urbanized, slower speed area. So we'd use judgment. To dovetail into your numbers, the volumes going into and out of a Home Depot or a Hannaford could be in the hundreds an hour, which is an order of magnitude more than the residential traffic might be.
And what is that peak volume, both morning and afternoon, going into the development?
It is, let me get the right number so I don't get them wrong. Okay, the project we're talking about today, 35 Gilchrist. We have 12 trips entering. And then there's other project going to 5052 Gilchrist, and in the afternoon, playground traffic. In the afternoon, there are 32 trips entering 35 Gilchrist, and other trips going into 5052 Gilchrist, and several trips going into the playground.
Thank you. So, for the biggest number I heard in there was 32?
Correct.
Thank you.
And so there's a total of 96 units or 97?
96, I believe, 96.
And per zoning restrictions, how many vehicles per residence, per unit?
Kelly, you'd have to answer that if there is one.
Parking or?
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you asking parking per unit?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that they're,
There's no restriction, but the requirement is 2 spaces per unit.
2 spaces per unit is the requirement. There is no restriction on however many cars you can have.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Anybody else?
Sorry, longer legs, I'm faster.
Certainly taller.
Yeah.
How are you, sir?
I might have to change this. Hi, Paul Ambler. I'm 14 Tokenell Drive.
14, did you say?
14, yeah, not 14A. They just get all our FedEx packages. Love you guys for that, by the way. Don't know who's responsible, but whoa. Anyhow, I do have a number of questions. The first one I thank you very much for touching on, and that is, what is the estimate of number of vehicles per unit? And was that factored into the traffic? Because I have a hard time believing that 192 vehicles are only going to exit and enter 32 times per day during peak. That is insane. That's question one. How many vehicles were assumed during this traffic study per unit?
So Kelly, back to you. That would be, is it 2 vehicles per?
I think those are there's 2 different questions. Our parking requirements are
Is 2.
2 spaces per
Yep.
unit.
And then I would assume.
There is a different standard used through the ITE based on residential use.
Can you just say what the ITE is, please?
I'll defer to the traffic engineers for that.
Well, what is ITE in long term? International Traffic and Engineering, something like that?
Correct, it's the national standard
Yeah.
that traffic engineers use to come up with these traffic impact studies.
Thank you. Did she get that?
She got it.
Okay.
How many vehicles per unit were used in the traffic assessment per the ITE?
Through your traffic assessment, what does the ITE say on vehicles?
The ITE assessment bases it on number of units, and the ITE assessment is based on actual traffic counts at other residential developments. And what happens is, let's say you have, those are 32 trips entering the site. That doesn't include the trips exiting the site. In the morning, during the morning peak hour, we have 12 entering, 35 exiting, for a grand total of 47. And in the afternoon, we have 32 entering and 22 exiting, for a grand total of 55. Now, that's not 96, but here's what happens. All the trips don't happen in 1 hour. Let's say it's a development where people are going to work in the morning. Some people might leave for work at 6, some people might leave for work at 7, some people might leave for work at 8. It's spread out, it's not all in 1 hour.
What is your peak hour?
For the development, here's how we conducted I'm going to back into the answer. Here's how we conduct the analysis. We base our analysis on the peak hours of the street network, because that's going to overwhelm the traffic due to this one development. So we took counts from 7 to 9 in the morning and 3 to 6 in the afternoon. And to establish a peak hour, we look at the busiest 4 consecutive 15-minute periods within those 2-hour timeframes in the morning and 3-hour timeframes in the afternoon. And I don't remember exactly what the peak times were, but let's say hypothetically, the afternoon was busiest between 4:45 and 5:45. That would be the peak hour for the intersection in question. And we build the networks, we look at the individual peak hours, we balance in between, match things up, and we generally end up bumping up the volumes. And when you apply the ITE trip generation numbers, you apply the numbers that coincide with the peak hour of the street. And that is intended to paint a worst-case scenario. The streets at their busiest and the site at its busiest, it will be when the streets are at their busiest.
Thank you.
So, can I?
Yep.
So you got the counts on Gilchrest by putting one of those rubber things across the road?
They actually counted the turning movements at the intersections.
Say it again,
They
sorry.
counted the turning movements at the intersections. So they either had someone sitting there counting and probably entering into a count board, or they did it by video. I'm not sure which way they did it.
Follow-on question?
Hold on one second, sir. Jeff?
Okay, I mean, how does that, I apologize, and very respectfully, how do you not know how they conducted that? Does that matter? I guess.
It doesn't matter.
Why?
Okay, when I do data collection, I have a data collection sub-consultant do it. I don't do it myself. And they do whatever will get them the data accurately and efficiently. It depends what they have. Some data collectors rely on the video and break it down, and some rely on sending people out in the field. Most of them have gone to video. It's the exception where they send people out to the field.
Is there a standard that's better?
No.
In the 300-page traffic study that we got 5 days ago, does that list how the research was done?
I don't believe it does.
I don't think
But
it is.
one thing we do is we compare volumes from one intersection to the other to see how they match. And that's a way we check things.
All right, we threw a lot of numbers out here. We have a group, we have a community of members here and I appreciate the work that you've done, totally understand the professional standards that you're under. I'm getting a little bit, I kind of want clearer answers. What I'm hearing, that either your traffic study, your 378-page traffic study is not going to have, is saying that those developments on Gilchrest are not going to increase traffic much. Is that a fair?
We did it by looking at the numbers, by following the
Yes or
procedures
no?
we're supposed to
I
follow.
apologize. Yes or
And
no?
we took field counts at the intersections. We use the ITE standards or methods to calculate trips through the development. We factored in a pandemic factor. We factored in annual growth out for 10 years. We factored in background growth projects.
See, I think he's asking though, is our project gonna increase traffic on Gilchrest Road? The answer is simple, it is yes.
Yes.
But it's a small number. When you look at how you outline how we determine this in your ordinances, we're a very small number in the way you calculate it based upon the town's regulations.
Thank you.
Right. We ran the capacity analysis to get the levels of service, and we were below the threshold in the town's regulations where we're concerned about impacts. This is going by the town's regulations in terms of seconds of delay increase.
Thank you. Just a follow-up question on that. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for entertaining me, and I appreciate the time. Obviously, this is all analysis. This is, trying to predict the future. Do you, when you go through this analysis, do you look through and do you look back at prior projects and compare how the original analysis compared to the actual state of what it was after the development was put in? Do you compare future state to present state after the development was put in?
You're talking basically a post-development study?
Correct, yeah.
Sometimes a municipality will ask us to do that, but it's generally not done. I will say that if things turn out noticeably different from what was in the traffic study, then we do hear about it, and we usually don't hear anything, meaning our studies generally don't fall short of predicting the traffic impacts. I can think of one example in my 40-odd year career where something like that did happen.
Yeah.
It was for a movie theater project, and we used the standard rates, and Jurassic Park was a movie that night, and they had 8 theaters, and they let them all out too close together. And it was different for my traffic study, and people noticed. But that's the only time in 40-odd years.
All right, so it's not practice definitely to do a pre and post?
Not usually,
Okay.
no.
I'm just trying to kind of, think through, and again, thank you for the time. How we, trying to get as much information as I can with this time that we have and look at the, a pre and, definitely a pre and a post and see how it compares. I travel Gilchrist from South Londonderry at least 3 times, a day. Mostly going to Hannaford's because, we just, always run out of milk or something ridiculous like that. And, the concerns that were raised at our last meeting were valid. There's definitely, those intersections are, they do go fast. I've been more mindful to go slower on Gilchrist. So I do want to kind of, stress that, the residents that will be coming to speak today, that's their lived experience. So, thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Anything
Chair.
else, sir?
Oh, yeah, just a couple of them. First, to your point about the, watching the intersections, videoing, the question is, were the intersections at Nashua and Gilchrist videoed at the same time, or observed, however it was done, at the same time the intersection at whatever that road is that goes to Hannaford off 102, at the same time the road exiting Home Depot directly onto 102, because anybody that actually lives off of Gilchrist knows that when you see about 15 cars piled up at the Gilchrist to 102 intersection, you cut through Hannaford's or you cut through Home Depot. Because otherwise you're going to be waiting there for a while some asshat comes out of 7-Eleven and tries to take a left onto Gilchrist to go up the hill. So, was that actually taken into account? Sorry, I know, a rambling question. Were they all added
Were they all added together?
Because people are not just going to go up Gilchrist into 102. They're going to go the other 3 at the same time.
I would assume they were all done together. Were they done together? Yes? No?
We conducted counts at the Gilchrist Nashua Road intersection and at the Gilchrist South Road intersection. And the residential streets that we basically have driveways opposite from. And those are the volumes we counted. And whatever cars appeared at those locations are what we used in our analysis.
Thank you.
In our scoping meeting, we don't look at private driveways such as Hannaford and Home Depot.
Okay.
We look at public roads.
All due respect, sir, as a driver, I absolutely do the opposite.
Yeah, understood.
Thank you. I have 2 original questions, and I want to address a question that I don't believe I actually got an answer to. And the first question I never got an answer to was, what is the actual number of vehicles that are in this division or in this development that was used in the traffic study? Not an ITE standard. What is the actual number of vehicles that were calculated for this development as part of that traffic study?
So the ITE standard would be, correct me if I'm wrong, the ITE standard would be what is used for the development. That number of cars for this development based off of the ITE standard is.
In the ITE, it doesn't take into consideration 4 or 5 of these type of projects. It takes into consideration thousands of these projects. And they do an average across all of those to generate how many vehicles per unit. Like when we look at a single-family residence.
So what is,
it's
just to make
usually-
this easy, what is that?
What was it? Because residential house on a subdivision would be roughly 10 trips per house.
Right. 10 trips per house, so you don't, so I'm
Per
understanding.
day, yeah.
So if I'm understanding, you don't give a number of, you don't say there is 200 cars per development, you're saying there's 10 trips per day out of the house.
If
Right.
it was a residential house.
If it was a residential
The
house.
inputs, the way, I actually was on a committee that evaluated all the data for the trip generation manual a few editions ago, and they amass the data for each land use, and they run statistics on it. They come up with, for different times, like the AM peak hour of the street, the PM peak hour of the street, or the entire weekday as 3 examples, they come up with an average rate. So a residential development would generate X number of trips per dwelling unit over the course of the day, Y number of trips per dwelling unit for the AM peak hour, and Z number for the PM peak hour. They also sometimes have regression equations that provide a second look at generating the trips. But the inputs are all number of units, and the outputs are all moving vehicle trips. And they're all subject to statistical review as part of putting the manual together.
Did you understand that?
I got it. What I took away from that is 10 trips per unit,
Correct.
per home, 96 units, that's 960 trips per day. If we use just a general bias of most people don't drive at night, because how many of these people are actually going to work third shift, and we say, okay, let's just take a 12-hour scope, that's 80 trips per hour. So where does the number of 32 trips at peak time come from? I'm not really sure. That doesn't add up to me. I'll let that one marinate. I have 2 basic questions. One, is this an over 55 community? No. So this is open to all ages. Is this in the South School Zone? Or is it Moose Hill?
No, Moose Hill's a kindergarten.
Sorry,
Matthew
Thorne. Yeah.
No, this would be South School.
This would be South School. So I would take a really hard look at that southern intersection, because now you know that statistically you're going to have a very large bias of traffic in the morning and in the afternoon, because you don't know how many kids are going to be in this development. So,
Well, they have those yellow limousines too, don't forget.
yes,
School
those
district has
big
those big
ones.
yellow limousines.
Yes.
That only counts as 1 trip.
No, that's true. But
So just to clarify, again, because these studies are put together, I'm sure they do have what your number is per unit of school-age children.
Oh.
They might not have it, but I'm sure there is an actual, Kelly, you might,
There is
it's like 0.16 per unit or something?
7 children per unit. There's 96 units, which amounts to just over 16, so we would round up to 17, because we don't have.
Yeah.
Yes, and I believe historically in the town of Londonderry, the .17 is actually higher than
An
what
actual.
we're actually seeing coming out of the schools. So there is a number for you.
Fair. Okay,
And
cool.
to that point, the superintendent has already weighed in on these particular projects and a few others.
Okay.
We had no comment, so.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anything else from the public? How are you, sir?
Good, how are you?
Good. Name and
Rick
address,
Mansfield
please.
from 10 Rouse Drive.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk. I totally respect where you're coming from a numbers perspective. It's difficult to argue with the math that's put into place, but as a resident, I have to ask the question, when you did the study, why did we not include 3 other streets? Ross, Tokeno, and Charleston, which has probably 3 to 5 times more families living on them than the 2 across the street from the development. And I get the development across the street, that makes perfect sense to me, but why did we include the other people?
Go ahead. Did you include those in the study?
We included,
Can you just list off your intersections for the gentleman, please?
I'll go to the list in the traffic study so I don't miss anything. We did the signalized intersection of Nashua Road, Gilchrist Road. We did Gilchrist Road and South Road, Gilchrist Road and Albany Avenue, Gilchrist Road and Boston Avenue. We did South Road and Kendall Pond Road east of Beaverbrook, South Road and Kendall Pond Road west of Beaverbrook, and we analyzed the site driveways wherever they tied in.
Thank you.
So why wouldn't we include the other 3 streets where we have people coming in and out of?
You're speaking Tokeno, Ross, and
Tokeno,
the
Ross,
other
and
side of the
Charleston.
road. Charleston. I'm going to defer to staff on that. My guess is because it's not an intersection that is directly across the street from the,
That and also, again, as much of a intersection such as Nashua and Gilchrist, Nashua and South, Boston was included because, again, the location of the
curb
access.
cuts themselves.
Correct.
So they weren't, to summarize, I guess to put it best, is they weren't within a proximity of the curb cut that would warrant the study to those specific three
Okay,
intersections.
I'm having a hard time with the logic behind that, since I live there. Maybe I'm being a little bit too passionate about it. But if I look at what we're looking at for, the trip amount, I'm saying, hey, you got 97 houses, potentially 2 cars per. We have another unit going in across the street that no one's talked about, how many units are going in there. I hear it's
So
somewhere around
just-
60.
Just to that, this traffic study was done in conjunction with that project. So this,
Okay.
this traffic study factors in both the projects themselves, not just the 35 Gilcrest Road.
And I'm aware of that. I'm just, my point is 97, potentially 60 across the street, another 44 plus down the street that we're putting in right now. So, just doing Rick math, we're looking at another 300 cars, 400 cars that are going to be
And-
zipping it down, making Gilcrest their home.
And this study factors in all those developments at full build, am I correct?
Right. I thought it was just the 2 across. I thought you just said it was
No,
the 2 across. the
no,
street.
it took
Okay.
Sheffield. So back,
All right.
this is way back time machine here. That's a Mr.
All right.
Line. I think it's Sheffield Estates down below. It's a little 55 plus.
Yeah.
We did specifically ask, and it was brought up at one of the meetings,
Okay,
that
thank you.
that at full build out was included in the traffic study for it
Okay.
because we know it's there.
All right, again,
Yeah.
my point is,
Yep.
being a resident there, it's next to impossible to take a left-hand turn. I don't care what time of the day. Did my own traffic study the last 2 Saturdays, trying to take a left-hand turn during peak time, which I'm gonna call between 8 and 10. 25 cars before we could even get out the door. So while I appreciate the numbers you've got into place, the reality is not what the numbers are reflecting. And I get why you need to do the numbers so that we can get this thing passed for them, but at the same time, for the residents around the area, that it's a bunch of horse hockey. Second question I have for you is regarding water. Was there any type of impact study done? I know you had mentioned before the last meeting that they're going to get town water at the facility, so they'll be all set. Our neighborhood has been hit with water issue after water issue, and I'm sure you guys are aware of the stuff that's going on right now with the EPA and the issues with the gentleman that contaminated the water and put in the contaminants. Every time they build, it has an impact on our water. Every time, built the Home Depot, I came into town, I had perfect water. I had, a little pressure pump just to get water out of the well. We got the Home Depot, I had to add on to a water filtration system. We put in Staples, I had to add more. Put in the Nevins, I had to put in a brand new water filtration system. So I'm a little anxious about what's going to happen every time we build. It has an impact on the water that's still up in the air on what we're going to be doing around here. So has there been an impact study done on what's going to happen with the water?
So, I don't think there was an impact study per se. We obviously, everybody in town recognizes there's a water issue. And we know that the town is actively trying to seek it.
I
an
can
answer to
appreciate
that.
where you're coming from
Yeah.
on that, but my challenge is every time there's building in that area, our neighborhood gets worse and worse water. We're spending more and more money. We have people in our neighborhood that are on bottled water that are getting deliveries, and there's no end in sight, and there doesn't seem to be resolution.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
So why wasn't there an impact study on what's going to happen with the groundwater as a result of this building?
So I understand completely what you're going through with the water. This board does not have a tool to play with that question or answer. This
Is there a board that does, sir?
Town council could be helpful, unless, Kelly?
Is the question specifically about what the applicant has done for this particular project, or is the question a broad question about water?
It's a
The
broad
question is about what has this
question.
applicant done
Is
in
it-
regards
Allow the
to,
applicant an opportunity to respond, once this gentleman has
Yeah.
completed his question.
So,
Yeah, so I'm all set, yeah.
can you guys respond to that?
So primarily, it's a Pennachuck water line that goes past our property. Pennachuck Water Line has agreed to allow us to extend that into the development. As part of our permitting through alteration of terrain, because of the Tinkham site, it has come up quite a bit through our permitting. Alteration of terrain has some requirements in their ordinance about groundwater recharge. We had designed this originally with a large groundwater recharge system that would suffice and meet alteration of terrain's regulations, but when hazardous waste chimed in, they had us remove that from the property because they weren't sure how that would affect the groundwater by putting more groundwater into the groundwater. So, you know, that stuff was removed from the plan, and the pond itself that was designed on this property is just your standard detention pond. It also has a liner, is something else that the state had asked us to put on the pond so that there wouldn't be the seepage into the groundwater to deal with or affect that delicate balance of what's going on with the Tinkham site. So, you know, anytime anything's come up, we've addressed it and done what the
And that's through the
recommendations
state.
by the state
through the
agencies have
state.
been for it. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
William Booz, 29 Gilchrist. Let's go right on to the water. So I'm not asking questions, I'm making statements. A year and a half ago, I was forced into having to rip into money to get Pennachuck water because the water was so gross, my head would bleed. Nasty, nasty stuff. Okay, that being resoluted, I had to rip into money. I got hooked up to Pennachuck water from Gilchrist because there was a curb stop out there. They would not come down to Ross, so I had to go through my whole front yard, cut a hole in my driveway, which I just got patched Friday. I still don't have a set of stairs in my backyard where the water ties into my basement. Okay, that being said, that's that. I live right on the corner. Their survey, their analysis means nothing to me. I see it every day. I watch the traffic every day. I sit in it every day. Saturday, I saw an accident, almost saw an accident that close, 6 inches separated that accident. Did they take into effect the drag racing that comes down where the 2 lanes go into one? Because nobody wants to do anything right. I don't think that takes place. 25 miles an hour right in front of my house. They go by very quickly. That's the same. It hasn't changed and it's gotten worse. When I left, my wife said, yeah, you know what? Tell them I can't hear my TV. There's a constant whir of traffic. I have to close my windows to hear my freaking TV. I told you before, the last time we were here, this isn't a good thing, and it's not getting better. The residents here don't appreciate it, and I don't have any faith in any analysis that I'm being told. Everybody respects it. Yeah, I respect everything and everybody. I don't respect that. The residents here don't respect that. Because I told you, it's not going to get any better. I don't know what else to say. I'm putting it in. This gentleman was the only one that I saw expressed a concern in the traffic because he travels that road. My analysis is a little different. I live right there where you seem to be avoiding. It's not a good spot. That needs to be taken into consideration. And the fact that everybody else deserves town water before they get town water. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Maureen Mansfield. I also live at 10 Ross Drive. My problem with this whole project is it's the traffic, it's the water, it's everything else, but it's 96 townhouses. Do we need to put 96 townhouses at the top of an already busy intersection? If it's 20 acres, can't we put in 20 houses? They put in 6 houses on South Road, and I didn't think those houses would sell. I mean, I drive by that road every day on South Road, and I didn't think one of them would sell. But why do we have to have so many? And then why do we have to have 60 on the other side? It just seems to me we're compressing all these people into a small area. I understand they purchased this land and they can do what they want with it, but that I just had to say my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Louise Drumgold, and I live at 1 Tokenell Drive, which is right on the corner of Gilchrist and Tokenell. At night, like the other gentleman was saying, you cannot hear your TV because of the traffic. The loud cars that go by, the motorcycles, it's ridiculous now. It's absolutely ridiculous. And to put all those extra cars on the road and think there's not going to be an issue is not even logical. So they've done a lot of studies. Studies are good until you get the buildings in there. And then once you get the buildings in there, they're there. And that's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Don Moskowitz, 7 Tokenell Drive, Londonderry. I've lived there with my wife, kids, for almost 46 years. And I've seen a lot of construction occur over those 46 years. And the traffic at the intersection of Tokenell Drive and Gilchrist could be horrendous at times. I agree with the gentleman that was speaking about that intersection and some of the other intersections that should be analyzed. I know I can wait on the order of maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes sometimes, trying to take a left out of Tokenell Drive. The other thing, one of the gentlemen mentioned that, and you concurred, I believe, that the traffic going in and out of Home Depot and also the Hannaford roadway might not have been taken into consideration because of the private nature. But I do believe that traffic should be looked at. Additionally, I haven't heard anything about the traffic that's going to be coming up from Gilchrist, from the units that are under construction down by South Road. And I think a lot of those vehicles will be heading up Gilchrist also. I was just curious also about the queuing that might occur at the intersection of Route 102 and Gilchrist. I know at times when we've gone up there, there's probably been maybe 10 or 12 cars in line up there. And it just seems to me there's going to be an increase in the queuing. And I was just wondering what the impact might be on the air quality in that particular area. And whether an air quality impact analysis was ever done. I worked for environmental consulting companies for 25 years, and we did a lot of air quality work, hazardous waste work, et cetera, water quality. And I know when there's queuing like that, there can be a significant impact on air quality in the area. The other thing I understand is that in a previous meeting, I don't know if it was this meeting or town council meeting, there was some concern raised about the pesticides that were laid down on the property when it was a active apple orchard. And I'm just wondering whether an environmental impact assessment should be done for that property to look at those pesticides that are in the ground. I don't know if anyone really knows how deep down they went, whether they might have impacted the groundwater in the area. So those are some of my concerns, and I appreciate it if the planning board or town council might look at some of those concerns.
Thank you, sir.
John, DES do some work down there?
The town had done some work previous, Art, but I am not that familiar with what the results of that.
So I know when the conceptual discussion occurred, there was input that I guess there's still, it's monitored and the town gets data and everything from it. So maybe we can follow up on that.
So I can answer some questions about the pesticides. And so the town did do some preliminary research on the property. There was a pesticide called Dieldrin in the soil. Dieldrin was used primarily on crops as just pesticides. So we have done hundreds of test pits, hundreds of probes, hundreds of soil evaluations across the property. We've pinpointed the Dieldrin level. It's at the bottom of the plow layer. So there's a portion of the site that's 6 inches down. There's a portion of the site that's 12 inches down. My client, as of last week, has already hired a contractor. They're going to be removing all of the contaminated soils from the site. It's being taken to a proper facility where it's being used in a landfill that'll be capped in another part of the state. So any of the pesticides that are on the property will be removed. We already have environmental consultants who are working with us on it, and will be monitoring it when the material is being removed from the property. So,
thank you.
So two of the other things that were asked. One, is it my understanding that Mammoth Road, Gilchrist signalization is going to be retimed or changed to reflect?
Mammoth at Gilchrist?
I'm sorry.
102.
102
It's already been
Gilchrist.
done. The state
Okay.
fixed that in April, according to the memo I saw for that. And one other thing, since we're talking about it, is, the neighbors are talking about the traffic at Tokenol, at Ross. It's not that we didn't take into consideration that traffic because it's traveling on Gilchrist Road, right? So the vehicle trips are being watched as part of our study. In addition, the trips, that we didn't study the specific number of trips taking a left or a right out of Home Depot or a left or right out of Hannaford's, but the vehicles on the road were taken into consideration. So the volumes that are traveling on that road take those other intersections into consideration. It's just we didn't look at them from a.
Last thing Mr. Moskowitz asked was about at the bottom of Gilchrist at South Road, that new development. You already testified that was added.
There was.
It was part of the.
Yeah, so when we met with staff, John had us look at that. There was a subdivision down the street. There were 2 or 3 things that we took into consideration that might not have started already, but were already approved. So we took their information and added it as background growth for the calculations that were done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sir?
Yeah, Francis Dolan, 9 Ross. As far as traffic, recently my wife almost got T-boned coming out of Ross by someone flying down there, not paying attention, and I'm just worried about you increasing it. And my next one is the entrance to the play area. I see no reason for it. If it's for handicapped people, then put it in there closer to it, without having to take it onto the road. If it's about families there having to go all the way down there, well, if they're having mobility issues to get down there, then make way for it. You shouldn't have to put someplace that's going to cause more disruptions. Sorry.
Thank you.
just a little frustrated with this whole thing.
Understood.
And then the water. I take it there's going to be basements in these houses, which means they're going to be drilling. I don't know whether there's ledge underneath, if they have to break through that, which might impact my water. My water comes from that side. You know, I don't need to continue to fight water issues. That's all I have to really say.
Thank you. Real quick on the basement thing, there's no, there wouldn't be any basements because they're all
They're all up,
they're all on
and actually,
grade.
the job's an import. So because we're removing the material, but even before, the initial design of the site hasn't changed, but we were originally looking at, the state had said we could keep the de-Aldrin contaminated soils on the property. As long as they didn't leave the lot, we didn't have to worry about it. My client has chosen to remove them, but early on, we set up the project as an import job. So because of the de-Aldrin, we were going to just cap everything with anywhere from a foot to 2 feet of soil. So everything that's done on this property is above. We're not going in the ground. They're a townhouse type structure. The bulk of these, the basements, you walk out grade, and it's right on the surface for the most part, or above the surface some, because of the nature of the design, because of the concern with the de-Aldrin that was on it.
So there's no 8-10-foot cellar holes?
No, there are none like
Thank
that. You know, I can't say that, you know, a drainage line that's down, or the force main that's down 10 feet or something like that might not hit something, but from the preliminary test pits that we've done in the strategic locations on the property, in addition to the hundreds that were done for the environmental people, we haven't seen alleged to be any issues with what we're working with here, and we avoid it at all costs too. It's just, it gets very expensive to have to start doing that type of construction.
Thank you.
But in this case, everything's up from the surface that's there now.
Thank you. Ma'am?
Good evening. I'm Deborah Balin. I live at 45 Tokenell, so I'm the corner of Tokenell and Ross. And I've lived in the house since 1991, so I've seen a lot of development projects over the years. I would say when I first moved in, the Tinkham site was a big thing in the neighborhood, and we had lots of meetings about that. And then about 7 or 8 years later, they put in Home Depot, and then a couple years later, they put in Nevins. And then, I don't know, maybe about 10 years or so ago, and maybe I'm losing track of time, it may have been a little longer, they redid the road and the curve, supposedly trying to make it a little safer. So I've seen a lot of different changes over the years. I would say that I have several concerns about this. I think my major concern about this, my two major concerns about this would be the traffic and the water issue. The water issue affects me. I actually cannot drink my well water. I have water delivered to me. Haley Aldrich comes out twice a year, taps it, and I have extremely elevated water levels. And I'm on the back. Nevins backs up to where my property is. And so I think that and a good number of our neighbors have water problems, and we really think that we should be hooked up to the public water just because of the impact it has on our neighborhood. And I know you said you can't address that, but I just wanted to throw that out there. Regarding the traffic, so I actually am a person that walks the neighborhood. A lot of people here probably see me walking around all the time. And I walk all around Tokenall Ross and over to Charleston and up Albany and through the cemetery and back around. So I cross the road twice a day when I do these walks. And I'm going to tell you, it can be extremely dangerous. There are people that I look left, I look right. I think I'm going to just run right across, and there's people drag racing down the road. So I see it from walking, and I also see it from driving. As another gentleman said, on the weekends, sometimes I could wait 25, 30 cars. It could be like a whole bunch of cars coming up from South Road, and then a whole bunch of cars coming down from 102 or from Home Depot. It can be very difficult to get out of, and I usually come out Ross. It can be very difficult. There's also an issue, and I don't think anyone's mentioned this, about coming out of Hannaford's. I know a lot of us like to shop at Hannaford's, and right now, just pulling out of that Hannaford's parking lot, taking a left to go to our neighborhood, that can be tricky now, but if we're talking about a couple hundred more cars, I don't know, over 100 cars more an hour, our ice cream will be melted by the time we get home, and we live less than a mile from Hannaford. So I'm not even sure how we're supposed to get out of the Hannaford's parking lot. I'm surprised someone from Hannaford's isn't here to question this whole thing, because that might impact people's decision to go to Hannaford's. I would also say that up at the traffic light on the hill in front of the 7-Eleven, taking a left onto Nashua Road 102, there's been many times. In fact, I go up there to go to Planet Fitness a couple times a week. I would say at least once or twice a week I have to wait through 2 traffic revolutions just to take a left, and I'm not even going in prime time. I may be going around 9 in the morning. And that's without this excess development here. So I think the traffic is real. I think that there's a lot of kids that live and play in these neighborhoods also. And that excess traffic, if they're learning to ride their bikes and if people decide to start driving through our neighborhood, I don't know what the crime could be with extra people coming up and down Gilchrist and potentially going through our neighborhood. So those are all of my concerns. So those are a good number of my concerns, at least.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else from the public?
Steve Feinberg, 9 Morrison Drive in the Nevins. As far as just all this traffic stuff, which the previous woman made mention of, the concern I have is being able to simply walk over, get over 102 from the other side. I've heard people, I've read in the papers that, no, it's a state road and the state controls all that. I don't know if anyone's addressed. There's no way there's no crosswalks, okay, anywhere along 102, okay, to be able to do it. And I just don't know. It would seem as though someone should be addressing this, whether it's part of this study, which is only going to be adding more potential, little kids and big kids, okay, wanting to be able to simply walk across 102. Okay. Anyway, that's all I have, I guess, to say, or maybe there's an answer to that. I don't know.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Jake? Excuse me, Chair.
Let's let the public finish up, and then we'll
okay.
come back to
No,
us.
that's fine.
I won't keep you long. The name is Ron Bichard. I live at 16 Ross Drive, and like Don, I've been there 50 years. So I've seen Ross Drive from a dirt road to Gilchrist Road. There was a dirt road when we were called Balmoral Estates, which is a long time when Bob Ross was building houses. Now, the other thing is that progress is inevitable. We're going to have the traffic no matter what. But there may be, for those of us that have a tough time getting out of Ross Drive and Tokenel, as early as last week, I was at least a traffic light, whatever the time it takes for a traffic light to change, before I was able to get on Gilchrist. At the same time, some person came down rather speeding down the road. And I know you guys can't control traffic. Okay, that's not your job. However, when the traffic study was done, I wondered if they took into consideration that every once in a while, heading north, I assume north towards 102, that's not a 2-lane road. It's a 1-lane road because somebody is dumping cars that are being dumped on that road. And it becomes a 1-lane road. And they don't dump cars in 5 minutes. Okay, they'll take 15 minutes, 20 minutes, a half hour. So that's now a 1-lane road. Now again, you guys can't control that, but somebody's got to be able to go ahead and figure that out. Number 2, at the getting out of those roads, visibility is difficult. There's trees, bushes, of course in the wintertime, piece of cake. But right now, you can't see, and maybe I do, by the way, but nobody travels the speed limit down Gilchrist Road, not a person. So If there's some way that they can control
Traffic behind
so that the visibility would be a little bit easier, so you could see, or is there a possibility that at the Tocanel and maybe a four-way stop? Something to at least, so that people don't come, watch my language, come motoring down that thing at a high rate of speed. Okay, so those are the two items. And as far as, you know, again, progress is progress, it's gonna be there. And the funny thing about analysis, when you're doing traffic analysis, in my past life, when I went to school at University of Lowell, I was doing traffic analysis. So it's 50% conjecture, 50%, and then there's reality. Now, living on Ross Drive for 50 years, I know, and the other people, we know the reality of what it is to get out there. It's real. And if there's just some way that that can be controlled, again, it's not your job, but there's got to be somebody here with influence somewhere to say, hey, guys, we got to slow them down somewhat. But, and thank you for serving, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Anything else from the public?
Thank you. Kevin Smith, 6 King Phillip Drive, and I'm also a consultant with this particular project. Just a couple of things to note. One is I want to remind the board that the development rights to this project, unlike pretty much any other project that comes before you, went to a public referendum vote back in 2021, and it passed with almost 1,900 votes for the town to sell the development rights for $2.65 million to Massetti Development. I don't think anyone here, including the developer, is saying that traffic along Gilcrest Road isn't an issue. As has been stated earlier, this project in and of itself and the cars it's putting on the roads doesn't trigger any mitigation to be done to Gilcrest Road. However, it still is within the purview of the town to do a full traffic analysis at some point to see what can be done and should be done in the future. It's not just Gilcrest Road; it's many roads in Londonderry, and perhaps that's a future Warren article. Is the town taking a very comprehensive look at a lot of its roadways in town to see what can be done? But I wanted to note that. For the board. The other thing is, Jeff, to answer your question, while I was sitting there, I emailed the subcontractor, who was Steve Pernaugh, that was taking the counts, and they used physical people at those intersections to do the recording.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Anything else from the, if you could just make it very brief, sir, please.
No, go ahead. You haven't spoken.
Yeah.
Ray Breslin, 3 Gary Drive. I am not an abutter, but what I've heard here is a lot of concerns from a lot of citizens about public safety, traffic safety, and for that matter, water safety. All of this impact on Gilcrest, not only this project, but the 2 other ones, and all of the traffic that we are currently dealing with is of great concern. And I think the board needs to take that into account. I mean, what is more important than public safety? Please think of this very thoroughly, and with all due respect to these people, developers coming forward with these projects, this one in particular, I'm sure is still pending in regards to the relationship between the town and the developer. Could I ask a question? Has anything been finalized? I believe the property owner owns the property. the development rights were set aside, and now it's moving forward. Where's the status of that?
What's the status of the sale of the property?
No, not the sale of the property, the development rights.
The development rights, I believe, to Mr. Smith's point, somebody can please correct me if I'm wrong. The development rights, the townsfolk voted on allowing this to be developed, to go from conservation to a development. Am I wrong?
They sold the rights.
They sold the rights.
The town has sold the rights
Town
based
council-
off of a vote.
Town council has voted on that, so.
The town council voted on it.
Yeah, I think
It was
we got
actually a vote of the town,
councilor
too.
here can-
Ray, to be very clear, the town voted on this. The townspeople, during our town election, voted on selling the rights to this property. It was a warrant article.
Correct.
Right.
At this point, that
Right.
has not happened, correct?
No, that happened in
It did happen.
2021, yeah.
Well, it went to vote, and there's one part of it is that this has to get approved.
Right.
So
Yeah,
that's the
yes.
condition,
Exactly.
the one condition on it is the approval of the project.
Exactly. So, I think we really need to think of this really thoroughly, and with all due respect to the developer. I mean, he has a right to do something, but there's a lot to consider here. And a lot of it has to do with the impact of the taxpayers and the public safety of the taxpayers. Thank you for
Thank you,
allowing
Ray.
me to speak.
Thank you. Anybody else before I close public comment?
I have a very quick follow-up question. You'll get that. Mine's math can be really fast.
John Wilson, Trans-Will Drive. I have a couple quick questions about your traffic.
Mr. Wilson, if you could just talk to me, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
A couple questions about the traffic study. I'm wondering, I honestly don't know a lot about traffic studies. Over the years, I've looked at traffic studies, and I always come back to the same conclusion: there must be a better way. But one of the things I thought about tonight when we were talking is, after you get all done with these tests, do you ever stress test them? And by that I mean, when you first start out, okay, you have a development of 96 family homes in an urban area or a suburban area, and you go into the database, and that database comes back and says that in the peak hours in the morning and night, X number of cars are going to leave and come back. Okay, now I know it's oversimplification. The question is,
Excuse me, folks, I'm sorry. It's difficult to hear up here. I'd
Oh.
ask, we're giving you the respect
I'm
to let you
sorry.
talk, please.
Okay.
Please just,
Did you hear what I said?
I was having trouble hearing you. That's why I asked them to stop talking. Thank you.
When you start these tests, you go to a database and you have some data about the development. Okay, mainly how many houses, and so on. And it comes back and gives you a number, two numbers really, and that is the number of cars that'll leave during the peak hours in the morning and the number of cars that are going to come back the peak hours at night. And then to do the rest of the work, from that number, an inch or an inch and a half, 2 inches of paper can be generated that supports all this. Okay, my question is, supposing it says that there's going to be 50 cars leaving in the morning at 5, and you come back and a flag doesn't go up and say this is a problem. Do you ever go in and say, okay, let's move it up 10% and see what 10% does, and see how far you can stress it with, in other words, what's your room of error before the system comes back and says we have to fix this problem? Do you do that?
I'll let you answer that real quick, please.
It's a sensitivity analysis.
Okay, yeah, sensitivity.
And usually we rely on the ITE data. there have been rare occasions where we've done sensitivity analyses that usually, I can't remember one in my career showing things blowing up. Usually, if it's a low-impact project, for example, and you increase the traffic by 10%, it stays a low-impact project. I haven't run into, in my recollection, a case where we hit a tipping point. We don't do it very often.
Well, the reason I'm saying is, most of the people in this audience, when you throw out these numbers, and they see the reality of how the town's traffic problems have risen, and we see two big developments side by side simultaneously being put on a two-lane road, and you come up with these numbers, everybody says, no way, there's going to be more of a traffic problem. And they're probably right. But I think it would be helpful if we had an analysis that says, when do you come back and tell us that it's a problem? In other words, if you say, oh, you have plenty of room yet, you could double the, cars, so you follow what I'm saying? Maybe there's some comfort in people if you could actually tell them when this project would be a problem.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Oh, one other question. Just one more. Two, actually. One of my other questions was partly answered, and that is the soil problem. I was concerned about the soil problem, but I was also concerned about the fact that these 96 houses with young children are going to be built right next to a hazardous waste area. And I was wondering how that impacts this development. Okay, and somebody took my wind away because I was going to bring up those cars being taken off that truck, two or three times a month, and I come up that road and it's now a one-lane road, and that happens often, and that is a mitigating problem.
Thank you, sir.
In fact, I can remember when we had the site plan, when the Ford place expanded, they said they had enough room to load and unload the cars on their site and not in the road anymore, so.
When we get back to the public, we'll talk about that a little bit.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it is a
Or, it's
problem.
back from the public, not to the public. Sir, last question.
Thank you very much for humoring me. So I'm actually an engineer in a day job. Simple math that doesn't make sense really irritates the crap out of me. Testimony to 32 cars, 32 trips at peak hours. When you actually say that all three developments were factored into the traffic study, that's 2,000 trips per day. 2,000 per day using the ITE numbers for a residential area. Because I'm assuming that since they're all in the same vicinity, they're all going to have the same basic ITE numbers. Now, I could be wrong. If we, again, use the 12-hour travel period, because most people aren't driving at night, that's 166 trips per hour. So I am asking this board to call into question this traffic study because the numbers do not make sense. You can scale it down and you're still at 120 trips per hour. Not peak time. That's just saying we're going to divide it by 12. Okay? I would ask this board to call into question the validity of this traffic study. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, anything else? Seeing none, I'm going to bring it back to the board. Board, do we have any input?
Is public closed?
I will close public comment. Thank you, Kelly. Ann?
I just want to ask one last question for my benefit. The traffic that comes down 102 from the west and takes a right into the Home Depot Road and uses it as a cut-through to get to Gilchrist, to get to Lower Gilchrist, and take a left on whatever the road is named in Derry. Do you capture that at the South Road intersection?
Oh, South Road.
Hey, folks,
Kendall
please.
Pond Road.
Oh, is it Kendall Pond up
Yeah.
there?
You go left Kendall Pond, right.
You do
South
catch
Road.
that? Because I was worried because I've been at Dunkin' Donuts so many times. The cars are just going so fast by Dunkin' Donuts just because they want to beat that light at 102 in Gilchrist. Just wanted to make sure that it was captured in your study when they come down out of the Home Depot parking lot, abutting Gilchrist, and take a right, and they'll be caught at that lower Kendall Pond intersection.
Any of the traffic that goes down to that lower intersection with South Road, Kendall Pond, that intersection, it's all the traffic. We counted all the cars that
Okay.
get there.
Thank you.
So again, Ann, just to help you understand it, so even if they're gonna take that shortcut going through Home Depot, so again, they counted the traffic at Gilchrist and Nashua Road. Then they counted it at, Gilchrist and Albany. right?
Okay.
So you follow me?
Okay.
So even though they skirted
All
that-
along the way?
Right.
Okay.
You follow me? And then they did it again at Gilchrist and Boston and Ave, and then Gilchrist and 102, or excuse me, South Road.
Okay.
Follow me? So they do capture it,
Mhm.
even though they're. people
Okay,
think they're-
just making sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else from the board?
As far as the, opening onto Gilchrist Road for the park, I'm not really supportive of that. I think that.
Not either.
I think Ann agrees also, so I couldn't support that.
I just don't want you to get rid of the playgrounds. Leave it in there. But get rid of that exit onto Gilchrist.
What about, I guess, like there's pavement around that, there's, there's gonna have to be service work associated with that area.
Couldn't you have a
If-
driveway right up to it? I mean, you show in this picture a huge area right there you can access.
So, I'm gonna talk real quick. I agree. I do not like the access onto Gilchrist Road. However, I also understand the importance of that access. If little Joey breaks his leg on the tennis court, I certainly don't want our fire department pulling up on the side of Gilchrist Road and sitting there, nor do I want him to have to walk, 300, 400, 500 feet to get to the person. So I feel as though the pavement serves a purpose. The curb cut serves a purpose, a public safety purpose. That being said, I don't like that the curb cut's there, and I would ask what the remedy to that is, because, personally, as somebody who does have 2 kids who are under 3, I would want to live in a development that does have a neighborhood, that does have a playground or something of that magnitude. So I would ask what is the remedy to that? How's that get fixed? Anybody?
I say take it out.
Yeah. Take it out.
Take out the playground, put a nice lawn there, you can play
Remove the
badminton
pavement.
and
Honestly,
bocce.
yeah, Mr. Chair, I think that's kind of where I'm at. And you mentioned it in your opening testimony, that it's not, that you can essentially take that out to remove that curb cut.
Mhm.
And from a site plan perspective, I think that's one of the controls that we can have there. I like the playground, I like that aspect, but, the chair made a great point. If little Johnny breaks his leg, you have to get an apparatus in there. The other aspect too, obviously little Johnny's not bringing his leg there all the time, but, you're going down Gilchrist and you're like, oh shoot, I forgot something at Home Depot. Look at this, here's an outlet I can just turn. So then you have that issue. Then you have Tony, Mr. DeFrancisco's scenario where there's, Big Johnny playing basketball at 2 a.m. So, there's a lot of different kind of scenarios. It's a nice amenity.
It's a
but-
great amenity in the wrong location.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best way to say it, I think.
Yeah.
And I think my client's impartial. Stay, go away, I don't think they care.
Does the board feel that allowing only emergency access into this thing would remedy that, or do they feel as though we are better off getting rid of it as a whole?
Yeah, I feel like that would be more of a burden.
Yeah. Take it out and make it a lawn.
Okay.
Make it green space.
Okay. So I think we have our answer to
I've got
Need
a
a vote?
question.
Not yet.
Why can't we put in, instead of courts that need to be cleaned, the playground? Just the playground?
It all-
And have it accessed from one of the paths? I mean, the kids need something.
I think it all comes to access at the end of the day.
But I can go into the musquash. The kids can go in the musquash, and they have to come in with one of those one-wheeled wonders they have now.
Yeah, but there's no
and
swing,
access.
there's no swing sets in
There's-
the musquash.
So, I just want to
Wouldn't do
come,
a swing set, no.
Nice rock ledge to fall off.
correct. And this is not a public playground. The folks, sir, if you're gonna, did you just swear? If you're gonna swear, I'm gonna ask you to leave. You gotta understand, I know this is a long night. We still have a lot to do. We've given you folks the respect to talk. None of us have interrupted you. I'd ask that the public gives us that respect back, okay? Thank you. This is not a public thing, it is a private thing. And I believe, Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, but the fire department said that if this was in here, they wanted access to it, correct? That was the fire department's comment. So that is exactly why there can't just be a playground there.
Okay, I was looking for something more passive, not a basketball court where people might get injured, just a little play area for the kids that could be accessed through a path and not to the extent it's illustrated here.
Thank you.
Could I just add?
Yep.
I think once you start designating a specific area for a specific use, we have to, that is when we, staff and other departments have to start looking at how are we going to get to it.
Correct.
Mainly emergency personnel.
Correct, absolutely. It's come up a couple times, the loading and unloading of vehicles onto Gilchrist Road from Fort of Londonderry. Is it within this board's purview to ask the code enforcement department officer to look into this? And if it's going on, make sure we rectify it with Fort of Londonderry?
We can absolutely do that.
Thank you.
But it, as you said, it's a code enforcement issue.
Correct. I know it's not inside of our purview. I'm asking you to ask code enforcement to
Already wrote it
please,
down, Mr. Chair.
please look into it. Thank you. Board, do we have any more input?
Just I got a bunch of other things.
Sure,
I got a couple of points too.
absolutely.
So just to me, it seems like this is, I'm not gonna say it's a good project or a bad project, it seems a little premature. I think we have some infrastructure issues down there, I think we do in a lot of parts of town, but the existing roadway system down through there is bad. I think everybody talks about the speed, the curves, the drag strip going down from the traffic light, everything like that. And I'm just not sure that area is ready for the development. I I understand the math behind the traffic study, and I don't have a problem with the math, and I don't think we're adding more cars, that are gonna get us to some threshold where we're gonna have to go and do some major road upgrades. But I don't think we know what's going on there right now. And I just think it's a little bit premature to put in this development and the one across the street without knowing what's going on there right now. And the other question on infrastructure is water. We hear a lot of questions about water on Tokenell and Ross. It seems like there is a Pennachuck water line that's nearby. What would it cost? The residents, the town, the developer, I don't know, but what would it cost to extend that water line into that development? It seems like they have some history of water issues following other developments in the area, so I would almost expect they're gonna have the same issue here too. But I look at those two things as like, I'd like to know that information before we go ahead and approve this project going forward.
Mr. D.
Thank you. So, I think in general, the town has done a poor job of management of traffic throughout the entire town. I think you don't stop a project because the management of the traffic is bad. I think you manage the traffic. And there's many, many ways to manage the traffic. I would, when I become king, I would put stop signs at this new street, what is it, Casey Court and Boston Ave and Gilchrist. Make that a four-way stop sign.
How about a rotary?
Yeah.
It's a roundabout.
Or a roundabout. But I think that's a perfect spot for this development and this developer to make a difference. Whether or not we can make them do that is a subject that Kelly's gonna take a ruler and hit my knuckles with it, but I think this would be a good opportunity for this developer, for very little money, put a four-way stop sign in there. I know you're talking about, we gotta go to the Traffic Safety Committee, which I personally think is a bunch of hogwash, because when it needs to be done, it needs to be done, so get it done. I think that's one way to manage this project. While we're talking about that, again, when I become king, I would also put a four-way stop at Tokenel and, what's the cross street, right across from Tokenel? Charleston. I will put a four-way there. That'll stop the traffic twice, slow everybody down. People can take a left to go north on Tokenel. That one I know is beyond the purview of this particular site plan.
Yeah,
Back to the site plan, I do want to talk about, it looks like on the back side of your site plan, you have a chain link fence. What's the reason for the chain link fence?
So when we were originally going through this process, residents from the Nevins came and had concerns about people from our property going through their open space. And it was agreed upon at that time to put up a chain link fence along that lot line. And it actually hooks around and follows a wetland buffer before it ends on the north side of the property.
So I've spent the last 6 days on this site, between walking the site 3 times, driving up and down Gilcrest, stopping at my friends' houses on Tokenel and Ross, and having chats and whatever. In walking the site, there's very little chance for people walking through the Nevins property. It's wet and it's tangled and it's whatever. Now, I came to town in 1978. Somebody in the audience predated me by a couple of years, and I'm very disappointed. I thought I was one of the oldest people, but that's okay. I'll get over it. But
You're
I
still
would,
one of the oldest.
But I would say that fence is a detriment, a huge detriment to the wildlife that's out there. I think it's bad for the deer. I think it's bad for the foxes. I think it's bad for the bunnies, and who doesn't love bunnies? And I think it's a bad idea to put that fence in, and I don't know why it's necessary.
It
And
was
so-
asked of us from early on.
I understand that, and I'd like to take it out.
I'm sorry. It's also in the PNS with the town for the development rights. So Rick is here, he's just whispering in my ear.
I understand.
So it was part of the vote that the fence was put between these properties. So
That was in the warrant,
that's what he says.
It's in the purchase and sale agreement.
so it was not in the warrant. Because I voted, I remember
It was not in
voting.
the warrant, it was in the purchase, it's in the purchase.
It's in the purchase and sale.
So it's in the purchase and sale, then, okay.
Is it a continuous fence? All around? Because Deb Levens from Conservation Commission, she was here.
She was here.
And she testified. She asked the developer to consider installing raised and open fencing around the development to facilitate wildlife transit and better meet conservation standards. So that's coming from somebody who's on the Conservation Commission and also lives in that development, the Nevins, so.
So I don't know what to do. I didn't know it was in the PNS.
It's in the PNS, I mean.
But it depends on it depends on how it's written. How is the PNS written?
It's not for this board to get into.
Yeah. Little outside of our wheelhouse.
Well, I don't understand why. It's right here. It's on the plan. We deal with items that are on the
We
plan.
deal with items that are on the
So
plan.
I don't understand why it isn't. And I don't understand then depending on what the language is, why it can't be a raised fence.
Yep.
So that the turtles and the bunnies and the foxes and everybody can shimmy underneath it, or whatever.
I don't see why it can't be raised. I just meant as far as discussing the terms of the purchase and sale agreement is not.
Is outside of
No,
it.
no,
Yeah, yeah.
that I understand completely.
Yeah, I'd like to see a raised fence that.
Raised fence.
I don't know what that means, and I would have to, I guess, be more specific, I don't know.
Well, Deb Levin said
What did
some,
Deb say?
She said, she asked the developer to consider installing raised and open fencing around the development to facilitate wildlife transit and better meet conservation standards. So I was thinking it was underneath, they'd get through, just one section of it, even.
Yeah,
it'd be,
just,
it'd be
I'm thinking-
poles, and then in between, it would be raised up for
Right.
the animals to,
Because robbers, they won't go under, they'll climb over, the robbers. They're gonna go into the Nevins.
Okay.
Because they don't like
All
getting their
right.
boots wet.
So I'm sure we can come to something to make a raised section of it. It's a 4-foot fence. We could put 3-foot chain link and leave the bottom foot
Probably on
open.
both ends, if it's coming from the north, a hole there, and then
Yeah,
So-
I'm sure we can come up with something.
something, yeah, just to
Okay.
Thank you.
figure that one out.
What about the stop signs?
I
Can we deal with
would
that or
like to
not?
hear more about the stop signs, Kelly, on,
I think it's in the purview of the town council, actually, because most of their responsibility is statutorily is roads and, traffic.
I would stay away from things that feel good things, and if you're gonna look at it, it should be part of this traffic analysis. Because you may be causing more issues, stopping all that traffic.
Well, it's gonna slow them down.
What you're gonna do is you're just gonna
Well, we
stop
see
the traffic
how,
on Gilchrist, because that's where the majority of the traffic is.
Yeah.
Those queues are gonna get much longer, then they don't even obey the stop sign.
Yeah, we can see how the traffic works on Mammoth Road up the old village with the three.
Well, that's different though, because people have an opportunity to go around that section of town if they don't like it.
Mr. Chair?
yes, ma'am.
The board should keep in mind what you are reviewing, meaning.
I understand that.
You're reviewing a site plan against the town of Londonderry site plan regulations that this board adopts and puts in place. That includes traffic. So you need to be very aware of what you are requiring based on the regulations and what you're asking for as a want, or in John's words, what feels good. You need to be aware of that.
Thank you. So board have any opinion on that with what Kelly's just added?
Well, so can we then, I'm just gonna beat the horse completely. So then can we make it incumbent upon the developer to be responsible for for a four-way stop at whatever their street is, Boston and Gilchrist, pending a study or comment from the Traffic Safety Committee? But at least have it in the language of the approval of the plan, saying, you understand where I'm going with that?
Yeah, I
mean,
do.
we're talking about 4 signs.
I do.
We're not talking any money. But,
No, but
it could
every
help.
one of those
But it could
signs,
help.
people are gonna stop, rev their engines and take off.
Yeah, we might be creating unintended
Yeah.
consequences.
Yeah,
We gotta think about how many, what.
That,
What this
that,
board is
that's my
talking about
concern.
is, does this
So,
No.
project comply with the regulations as written?
correct.
Mhm.
And
That
that's,
is what you're
I
talking
think that is the
Yeah.
small dilemma we're facing here, is that it does comply with our regulations, correct, Kelly?
Correct.
If it didn't comply with our regulations,
we would hear
there
from
would,
staff.
we would hear from staff about the necessary off-site improvements. I don't disagree with you at all, Mr. D. I think that stop signs would be hugely beneficial, but we need to ask ourselves from a quasi-judicial
Well, I think
point
we-
of view,
I think we need to think through it.
is
because,
What's our regulations
We-
say,
we-
and they're complying to our regulations.
yeah, because we can cause a lot of unintended consequences, which we have.
Well, that's why I'm
faced
saying
before.
make it subject to. But Kelly's saying we shouldn't even be, well, basically, we shouldn't even be talking about it.
Well,
So,
that's because, I mean, I agree. I think a four-way stop sign is a feel-good. I don't have any data on what that's going to impact on Gilcrest Road. Conceptually, yeah, it might slow down traffic, but if I don't have any data that supports that,
Correct.
if that traffic study did not account for that, I actually don't feel comfortable even putting anything there as it relates to this site plan. Mr. DeFrancisco, I agree with you. That is a good solution, and I'm happy that it did come up in a public forum. It really kind of opens up more aspects of town of Londonderry, and I really needs to focus on our infrastructure. And Lynn, Mr. Wiles, I really agree with your comments to that
Yeah, I think that dovetails right into what Lynn has brought up, that we should do more of a look at the traffic, or at least talk with the town
well,
council.
and that's
about
why I would
moving.
make it subject to.
Make it subject to, yeah.
You need to
But
be aware of potential legal ramifications
I understand that.
of putting additional conditions on a particular developer
I understand that.
that are not justified, meaning per the regulations.
I
Okay, so
understand.
what Kelly's
feel like
talking
we're
about,
drifting.
what Kelly's talking about is all these books. These are the town regulations, for those of you who don't know. These are all the things that we look at when we try to decide if somebody's in compliance or not. And not only that, there's this three-ring binder as well that also has all the regulations in it that we as a board are guided by, and the town staff as employees are guided by. And not only that, one thing I failed to mention was the state regulations are in there as well that we also have to be in compliance for. So I will yield the four-way stop sign discussion, but I will promise the citizens that are here tonight and the citizens that are watching on TV that in July, I promise you I will be at the Traffic Safety Committee with as much vigor as I have tonight. And we will be having the conversation about management of traffic on this main road called Gilcrest. So that's the best I can do tonight, and so I will totally yield. I would say in our motions that somehow we vote to take out the playground, unless they're going to yield it before we even make the motion. And I would also ask that we have the fence raised up, whatever that means. Thank you for the time.
What was the exact language of that, the fence, Ann? I would like to use that language if.
Yeah, what verbatim of
Yeah.
what, yeah.
Ask that the developer consider installing raised and open fencing around the development to facilitate wildlife transit and better meet conservation standards. It's in the minutes of this meeting,
Okay, thank
of
you.
the 5-1 meeting.
Give me one sec. Okay. Board, do we have any more input on this project? Does anybody have anything else?
I think it's getting to a decision
Yep.
time, Mr.
So
Chair.
we have a waiver that we have left to review. I am looking for a motion on waiver number 7.
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion, and this is in response to the applicant requesting a waiver from Londonderry Site Plan Regulations 6.01.c, which mandates no certificate of occupancy be issued until all off-site improvements are complete and inspected. And this will be, the waiver will be that the certificates of occupancy will be issued for individual units prior to the completion of the wearing course of pavement. Should the board, okay, I don't need to read that part, but the reasoning for this is that the waiver is without substantial detriment to the public good.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chair, if I
Yes,
could
sir.
just clarify it again, they need to prepare some sort of phasing plan, though.
Okay.
That way, again, it's, yeah.
Yeah,
Please
so-
add that as a condition.
So I believe that's in with conditions, correct?
You'll need to verbally add it.
Need to- yeah.
Okay.
All right,
So-
When you
say
make
it.
your.
Correct, so,
Either now or when you make your, motion on the site plan.
absolutely. Thank you. I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
I have a second by Lynn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? The waiver is accepted. We have got, looking for a motion here, folks. What are we looking to do?
Okay, Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to grant conditional approval of a site plan for a 96-unit multifamily residential development and associated site improvements in the multifamily residential R3 district, number 35 Gilchrist Road, tax map 7, lot 118. Gilchrist Realty Holdings LLC is the owner and the applicant, in accordance with plans prepared by Benchmark LLC dated August 1st, 2023, last revised April 5th, 2024, with the inclusion of the elimination of the park.
And a phasing plan for the development itself.
And the fence.
That's what we.
And the fence.
Yeah,
And the
yes,
fence.
yeah,
And the
yeah,
fence.
The fence.
And the fence. So we've got, just to clarify, we've got the removal of the park, we've got a raised
And
and
the
open
exit.
park and the exit, yep.
And the yes.
A raised and open fencing to better meet conservation standards for the fence, as well as a phasing plan for your finish coated pavement. Did I miss anything? I don't think so, because I don't see John staring at me. So I'm gonna go with no, I didn't. All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Chair votes in the affirmative. I have one opposition and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
So the
6,
701.
7,
701.
1, 0.
And I'd like the record to say, I think we're prematurely approving the plan as it is right now. I don't think we know enough about the infrastructure situation down there to make a legitimate judgment.
Thank you.
And I think to add on to what Lynn said, even though I did vote for the motion, is that we should really town-wide take a look at traffic. A serious look.
I'd like to add to that. I agree with, I did vote for the motion, but I do agree that we need to seriously consider infrastructure. I do know that, you know, we're working hard on updating our master plan here, and I think that's gonna be a big item on our master plan, is what improving the infrastructure in this town looks like. And I'm looking forward to that.
I'd like to add, I agree as well. I'm looking forward to that part of it. I think we do need to look at the infrastructure in this town. We hear time and time again about issues.
Absolutely, and everything starts with the master plan, so. Okay, we are on to new business here. Okay, we have a public hearing on an application for formal review of a site plan and conditional use permit to construct a 67-unit multifamily residential development with associated site improvements, 50 to 52 Gilchrist Road, map 7, lot 74 and 75, zone C1. Gilchrist Londonderry LLC is the owner and the applicant.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, there's no outstanding checklist items. Staff recommends the board vote to accept the application as substantially complete. It does contain sufficient information to invoke the board's jurisdiction and to allow the board to make an informed decision.
I will take a motion to accept the application as complete.
So move, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. Your application has been accepted as complete. Applicants, how are you?
Good evening. My name's George Chadwick. I'm with Bedford Design here representing Gilchrist Commons. With me, sitting beside me, is Tony Marcotte, a representative for Gilchrist Commons, and I've got Marco Plant sitting in the audience, who is actually one of the owner applicants. Before you tonight is a 67-unit rental, townhouse-type rental project. It's in 5 buildings. They're 2-story townhouse-type units. The project is located on 2 lots, 50 and 52 Gilcrest. The town is in the possession of a notice of merger to merge these 2 lots into one, thus creating the development parcel. The parcel is zoned C1. The project meets all zoning and dimensional requirements. Although the use does need a conditional use permit from this board. The project is on municipal water or Pennachuck water and municipal sewer. In front of you is a site plan for the project. The parking demand for the project based on town regulations is 134 parking spaces, and we're providing 138. Stormwater is being collected via a closed system and treated and directed toward a bioretention basin, which is located in the rear of the project. As part of the bioretention basin, we do have a minor wetland buffer impact that is 675 square feet for the side slopes for that basin. We've done our best to try to pull it as far away as possible from the wetland buffer. We did meet with the Conservation Commission, and I believe there's a recommendation for approval of that conditional use permit. We are decreasing the runoff. There's 2 main locations that runoff discharges the property. One is via that bioretention basin to the rear, which goes onto the Hannaford property. And the second is through a 24-inch culvert that goes under Gilcrest Road that heads toward the Home Depot project. And we are decreasing the runoff to both locations. We have submitted a landscape plan, and I believe the project's well landscaped. We are including a 5.5-foot fence along the frontage of the project with additional landscapings to help buffer kids and so on and so forth from Gilcrest. We're proposing a bus stop. The bus stop's located at the entrance. It's adjacent to the project sign and the entrance. Along with the 2 conditional use permits that I mentioned, we are asking for 2 waivers. The first waiver is from section 3.08 C2-4 to allow a 6-foot sidewalk instead of the 7-foot sidewalk that is required by the town. I would like to note that the 6-foot sidewalk that we are providing is ADA accessible. It is adjacent to a 20-foot long parking stall. So I believe that even with my very large truck that I parked out in your parking lot, there's no need for me to encroach that extra foot or have that extra foot on the sidewalk for the bumper or whatever. We're also asking for a waiver from section 310G5, and that has to do with perimeter landscaping around parking lots. I believe that regulation was written, again, we're in the commercial zone, written for larger commercial type parking areas where we're trying to buffer the magnitude and the number of parking or cars in a parking lot. It really doesn't fit with a residential type project. I do have and Kelly, if you could, I do have some elevations for the project. They show front side elevation, but we also have a sort of a flyover. It's a short video that shows what the project would look like, and maybe that's more helpful to the board if we just quickly look at that.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
I would note that.
Wow, you're gonna plant 50-foot trees?
Yeah, you see that?
The trees are
You guys are
shown
good.
at a mature size.
That's awesome.
The fast growing.
The neighbors will be very pleased on that.
Yeah, 40 years from now.
Yeah.
Tree goes between the fences.
Yep.
I think the flyover shows the architecture of the building. We did meet with the Heritage Commission. We're relocating the disturbed stone walls in the entrance and so on and so forth. And I believe the Heritage Commission liked the not only building design, but the site design.
That is correct.
And as you can see, there's some units to the rear with decks where the property does slope off.
You can get mesmerized by that.
One of those little things in the middle building, the little houses that are in the back.
Yep, we are in those units. The rear units, we're able to have a walkout into the basement of the units. Those are sort of a bulkhead that you can get down into the basement. No longer, I believe, are you allowed to have the old red pull-up bulkheads like we all used to have. So that is just an access point to get down to the basement.
Okay.
As you can see, we're reusing the stone walls. Stone walls are tied into the sign as well as the bus stop. Sidewalks leading to the bus stop.
Kelly, are 5.5-foot walls in the front, fences, are they allowed in the front of this 5.5-foot?
Yes.
Fences are? Okay, thanks. I
The,
thought we had a 3-foot height limit.
yeah, I believe the requirement for fencing in the front yard is anything under 6 feet is allowed. Anything over 6 feet in height is considered a structure.
Correct.
So it is allowed.
And a spite fence.
We did look at site distance and everything from the intersections. We did, I believe, address all the third-party reviews and the DRC reviews. I know it's a fairly large project, so I don't want to glance over anything. If the board has questions, I'd like to, if I can, I know there's probably still traffic questions hanging out in the audience, but now that the traffic engineers for the project have left, I'd like to let the past project hopefully address all the traffic issues.
I have a quickie.
Yes.
So your flyover and your schematic on SD 2.1 is different?
In
On
what
the
respect, please?
On the flyover, you have freeze boards and windows on your gable ends of the buildings. And on these plans that I'm looking at in my file packet, you don't.
I do see that.
And so I would like, I'm a big freeze board guy.
We will add the windows and stuff to the
And the
to the
freeze-
exhibit
and the
that's
freeze
here, but
board.
they do have windows.
Thank you.
Yep. This was
Did you-
submitted early, so the
Yep.
flyover was just recently done, and
I love the flyover.
As we work
And
through the
so
project.
But I would like these plans to reflect it too. If
Certainly will.
If these plans are gonna be part of the record. Thank you.
certainly will. With that, I think we're here to answer any questions.
No.
Like I said, Mr.
The helipad is the
Marcotte
bottom.
is with me, as well as Mr. Plant.
Okay, what we'll do, we'll go to staff for staff's input, the board for the board's input, and then to the public for the public hearing and the public's input. on this plan.
Mr. Vice
John.
Chair, members of the board, as George indicated, they are requesting two waivers. Waiver from Londonderry Site Plan Regulation 310 G5, which requires shade trees around the perimeter of all parking lots at a minimum ratio of 1 tree per 20 feet of parking lot perimeter. Staff does support that waiver request. Second waiver request was from the Site Plan Regulations 3.08 C2, Roman numeral 4-5, which requires sidewalks adjacent to buildings be constructed to a 7-foot width. Staff does not support that waiver request. Again, as George indicated, the idea is most people will drive into a parking space like that, particularly at a sidewalk, and they'll use the curb as their wheel stop. So once they hit that, at least it being a 7-foot wide width, there's more likelihood to have a 6-foot minimum sidewalk, which would meet ADA requirements.
Okay, so the reason for that is for the meeting ADA requirements.
Well, again, you want the sidewalk to be at least, to have this true 6 feet width,
Yep.
the 6-foot width.
Usable.
Like I say, so most people will drive it and use the curb as their wheel stop.
Oh, yeah.
Straightforward. Design review item, applicant should add permit approval numbers to the plan set and provide copies of the secured permits once received to the planning department. The traffic analysis, again, as George indicated, and we had indicated earlier, the traffic's been looked at both for this project and the previous project as one all-encompassing traffic report. So there are a few items that are left to be addressed. Item number 3, the applicant has not provided, again, the sidewalk issue. Item 4, the applicant should revise a water main design to include the pressure-reducing valve needed to serve the development as required in the Pennachuck utility clearance letter. Item number 5, applicant has provided updated utility plans. However, the applicant should provide a minimum of 18-inch clearance between all sewer and water crossings. Item 6, the applicant should provide details of the proposed retaining wall. Item 7, the applicant should include the operations and maintenance manual details and information as part of the plan set. And lastly, board action items, again, are the 2 waiver requests that the board needs to take care of. The conditional use permit, as George indicated, for the impacts to the Conservation Overlay District. And lastly would be the conditional use permit regarding the multifamily residential, which I'm sure Kelly will elaborate. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Bring it to
Couple
the.
things, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess I'll let you. I'll let you talk.
We're recommending that the applicant provide additional handicap parking for all the buildings, and in particular, Building D. Building D doesn't show a handicap parking space in front of that building. And then we're also recommending that the applicant provide additional lighting to cover the end of the parking lot and entryway, as indicated in my design review memo. There is a conditional use permit with respect to the multifamily use in the C1 district. Again, multifamily is permitted by conditional use permit in the commercial 1 district. The applicant has submitted a very detailed response to the CUP criteria, and staff is in agreement and is recommending approval of it.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
All right. I'm going to come to the board.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to just address the 7-foot sidewalk versus the 6 proposed. The ADA requirement for a sidewalk is not 6 feet. It's less than 6 feet. So we do meet the ADA requirements if the bumper happens to hang over the sidewalk. I do have something else to offer if the board is considering not granting that, and that would be to provide wheel stops a foot into the parking spot. Still have a 20-foot size parking spot, but we'll add wheel stops a foot inside to stop that wheel that staff is concerned with. So that is an option if the board is concerned with not granting that waiver. Other than that, I'm here to answer any questions the board may have.
Our sidewalk width requirements are 6 feet, not 5, so I stand corrected as far as the.
Seven, not six?
The ADA, when it's along the building. Again, so that you're not going like, you can walk straight.
Understood. Thank you. Okay. Can it come to the board before?
I couldn't understand what John was saying.
John, can you reiterate that a little bit real briefly?
Our sidewalk width requirement, a minimum is 6 feet in width. But then when it gets close to a building like that, like I was saying earlier, is people will use the curb as their wheel stop.
Right.
So then you're losing that width of the.
So you're down to 5 feet, you're
Correct.
talking about? That's,
You could be down to even less.
Yeah, if I
So-
back my Yukon in, it's 2 feet.
so do you still prefer us to leave it to 7, so it'll be 6, or?
Yeah, again, the regulation is 7, Ann.
Okay,
I'll leave it up to you.
okay.
All right, folks, coming to the board before we go to our public comment.
Can I ask you a question on the waiver?
Absolutely, sir.
So what happens if we don't approve it? I mean, does it change where your building layouts are going to be, or does it make the road too narrow? I mean, what are the consequences of us not approving that waiver?
If you did not approve it, we would have to adjust the buildings, yes. But again, I strongly feel that 6 is more than adequate. I got a huge truck, I just parked it in your parking lot. You got a 20-foot parking stall. My truck fits perfectly in that parking stall.
No, there had to be a reason why you're asking for it, and I figured it was because of the building layout, and so you just
It
confirmed that.
is.
Yep.
Yes.
George, you can't narrow down the aisle width? Don't you have 24-foot aisle widths?
We could ask for a waiver and narrow down the aisle width to 23 instead of 24, or 22 instead of
I don't think a waiver would be required. It's 22 feet.
22 is a waiver. Okay. There's another option.
So there would be no waiver required because the 22 feet meets our standards?
Correct, or like George says, they tweak the location of the building, so they meet the regs.
Yeah, that's a little bit more substantial than putting in wheel blocks.
Personally, I think wheel blocks are a disaster. I agree you need to have the right amount of room to get a wheelchair in and out. Wheel blocks are I find them to be a huge liability in the winter. People don't like to shovel around them. In the long run, I see being a disaster for the people that live there.
Well, they all end up in the back of the lot after the plow
Correct. It's
leaves.
just, it's horrible.
The
I've
spring
moved the
comes.
field.
But to that point, let me, 2 things. One, I think you're the one that parked in the chairman's parking spot when you came in.
Did you
and so-
park in my spot?
And so,
It
could be a little-
He heard me yelling about it the whole way in
Could be a
here.
little friction.
If it's a black Toyota, yeah, it's mine.
Because I walked in with the
It's not
chairman,
Toyota,
and there was someone in his spot, and I got an earful. I didn't have anything to do with it. So maybe a little friction going on here. Just saying.
I could
But
be.
please get to what you're about to say.
The second thing is, run by what you just said. John just gave you a different dimension than what you were thinking. So you actually have room then to put the 7-footers in.
We do. If we do reduce the aisle
Without
width,
moving the buildings.
without moving the buildings, if we reduce the width down to 22 feet for the aisle width, we do have room for
And
that.
John, that meets our regs, and no waivers are needed. And so that answers the question.
My only question to that what would it do to turning radiuses getting around the sides of this, and how does the fire department feel would be my question on that. So,
Are you tight as all heck, George?
What's that?
What's your turning radius show?
Yeah, no, I believe it would meet the fire department's requirements, but you could always make it a condition that, we pass by the fire department again.
Yep.
Sure.
Wouldn't town regulation meet the fire department's
I would
turning
think it would,
radiuses?
but
I'd hope so.
You know, I think-
On the face of it, it would. I mean,
No,
there might be
it's
some
because of the
circumstance.
raised curbs. The raised curbs screw everything up. That's problem with radiuses. That's, the town regs really didn't take into account the length of the modern fire truck and the raised curbs. That's the problem. And it happens to us all the time. But anyway,
So,
and it's $3,000 a tire or something. What did the chief say?
yeah.
It's a lot
quite
of
a
money
bit.
per tire
Yeah.
every time they
I
hit
think
a
we're
curb.
over budget on maintenance too.
Yeah.
Chair, Mr. Chair?
Yes,
can I
ma'am.
mention something about an issue I had? You have gravel patios?
They're
Why
gravel
not
patios.
concrete or
They're
something
not
like?
concrete.
Why not?
We are trying to allow as much water to infiltrate into the ground, even though we can't do that in the town. And it just,
Isn't that an irregular surface for people to walk on or put barbecues on or whatever?
it is.
Can't you just have a, little degree of an incline or decline for the concrete so it can run off and water your lawn?
Yeah. Yeah,
No.
we've chosen to make them gravel.
Thank you. Board, anything else from the board? Lynn, you sounded like you were about to say something.
So, I'm done with the waivers. I had another comment.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you were here before, I presented this as a conceptual discussion. We talked about putting a walkway into the Hannaford parking lot. Because right now, if you want to walk from your townhouse to Hannaford's to get a quart of ice cream, right, you have to walk out onto Gilchrist Road. And there's
That
no
is
sidewalk out there, and there's very little room between the curb, the edge of the pavement and the stone wall, so.
Sure.
We're willing to do that, and we think that Hannaford would greatly appreciate that, but where it involved another property, it's just a short extension. The people will walk there anyway, so we will work with Meg Properties, who owns the Hannaford property, to connect the sidewalk there, and I think they're amenable. We did try to connect the driveway, as the board had suggested, and they didn't like that idea, but I'm sure the connection of the sidewalk will not be an issue.
Because even just walking, over the grass.
Right, people will walk,
Going over
so-
the stone wall to walk across the grass, that's not a good situation.
Yeah, and
Mini pass.
Yeah.
there'll be mature pines in there, but there'll be plenty of space for people to travel through there.
So are you convinced enough to make it a condition of approval that we're gonna have access from your property over to that without going on Gilchrist for pedestrian traffic?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Lynn.
Be careful though, Lynn, because if they don't have an agreement with Hannaford.
Yeah.
That's why I say make it a condition of approval. Right?
Well, that's just it. So if they don't get an agreement with Meg, then they come back to you.
And we'll talk about it
Which is
again.
fine with me. Just telling you what it is.
Ann?
The stone walls that are existing on the property, is that what you're gonna be laying out in the front?
Yeah, the architectural view really doesn't show a nice rebuilt
Right, it looks-
stone wall,
yeah.
but that's because it wasn't in a computer. It will, basically, we'll take the stones and rebuild the walls as New England-style stone walls.
Okay, because a 1725 house was on that property,
Yep.
so.
Yeah, it's just,
Kinda
I asked
maybe-
the architect, that's the best he could do in his rendering, but they will be New England-style stone walls.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Anything else from the board? Okay, this is a public hearing. I'm gonna open up public comment. Anybody from the public have anything they'd like to say, please come up, state your name and address.
Ray Breslin, 3 Gary Drive. I'll try to make this brief. My concern would be, or question would be, this is going to be multifamily, this is going to be children in these facilities, is that correct? Yes? No?
Yep.
I assume so.
I would
You-
assume,
you-
I would
We
assume,
we
I would assume there's gonna
we
be
assume, right? I
0.7
mean,
children per house.
There's going to be young people that probably have children.
Multifamily's multifamily.
Right. So, what I'm would like to know is, a school bus is going to come into the site to pick up the children, or are they going to stop on Gilchrist?
They're gonna stop on Gilchrist Road. I believe per the conceptual discussion, Mr. DeFrancesco asked about putting up some sort of structure for
Yep.
children to wait at on the outside of the road, and I do believe that has been put in the
It
plan.
is on the plan.
Yep.
Personally, I would have some concerns with that as far as safety. We're already talking about heavy traffic on Gilchrist. A bus is going to stop to pick up potentially 20 kids. They're going to be stopped there for a while. I would consider that concern, but then again, I don't know if you have any purview over that or not.
Well, that scenario that you just said happens on High Range Road, Mammoth Road,
Yep.
102,
28.
28. Bus stops in the middle of the road. The little flippy thing comes out.
High Range
little
Road.
Blinking lights. All the cars come to a screeching halt, except for the one lady who wasn't paying attention and goes anyway. And,
So
and that's how it
your
works.
point is it's not a concern.
It is a concern, but I'm saying we can't, there's
all over
really nothing
town.
we can say to this developer because it's done all over town. So, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you, but
Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Ray. Sir?
Thank you. I have a request and then also a question. The request would be for a sidewalk along Gilcrest on the frontage.
Thank
Yes.
you. Could you
Oh,
provide
I'm
your-
sorry, yes,
I was
Doug-
so focused on what you were saying. Can you provide your name and address, please?
You don't remember me from last time?
You discussed the last side, you discussed
Yeah,
the sidewalk.
and you
last
said
time.
come back at this one. So,
Yep.
Doug Domeny, D-O-M-E-N-Y, of 29 Tocanel.
Thank you, sir.
And most of my neighbors have left. Thank you. So the request is to have a sidewalk on Gilcrest in front of this property, so it will essentially connect from the Hannaford sidewalk all along the front to the house that abuts Albany Road. So that's my request. As a pedestrian who walks along there, that would be great. You've got this new development, you've got the proposed development on the other side, and you've already got that, that ABC neighborhood, which has a lot of houses and apartments as well. So that's the request. The other question, and I don't have all these drawings, I'll leave them with my email with Kelly to get them. I couldn't tell if the cut for this proposal lines up with the cut on the other side of the road. So is that going to be basically like a four-way intersection? Or
no.
are they offset?
No, they are offset.
Offset. I guess my
I'm 90%, they're offset. They're offset by quite a distance.
Oh, it is at quite a distance, okay.
Yeah.
by a lot.
Oh, okay. My concern is that they were just a little bit off. Okay.
I wish, because I'd put stop signs there. When I become king.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
We should have a king for the day,
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, sir.
Make your crown.
Anything else from the public?
Yeah, I want that.
Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment and bring it back to the board.
Ian.
Ann?
I have a question for you. This has a little bit to do with your development, but as far as the elevation of this project, I noticed in the plans, a steep slope in the front and all that. How come the graphics don't illustrate that? Everything's, flat and level. How come the graphics don't? Are these programs
The slope
not-
is on the backside of the project, no?
Yeah, so.
No, well, in the front it said steep and also.
Well, there is a little bit of a raised area in front.
Yeah.
We are knocking down, if you look at the grading plans, we are knocking down that slope to provide adequate sight distance looking left out of the project. And then it does sort of pitch toward the rear of the property.
I was just
So
wondering,
with the grading plans, it does show that we are removing that, the little hill.
Is
That's
this-
where the old driveway used to be. It's
pretty flat.
yeah.
It's pretty flat. I mean, you're going from 300 to 310 feet way toward,
Yeah,
much
over.
further back. So
Next sheet.
it's really on the backside of the property. I see the cutout you're talking about that comes up a little bit, but
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
look close, you can see the old driveway. There is, in the existing condition, there is a little mound right by the existing driveway.
Yeah.
thank you.
I just wondered, could the graphics program handle that? Or is everything always drawn on the zero elevation or
Oh,
whatever?
you're saying from an elevation
Yeah,
standpoint?
yeah.
Yeah, I think when we propose elevations, it's more focused on the elevation of the building and not what the site does.
Correct.
If we had submitted what's called a perspective, it would take into account the terrain around the structure, whatever that structure would be.
Thank you, sir. Anything else? Okay, so to start off with, we've got some waivers to make some decisions on. I am looking for a motion on waiver number 1.
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion that the applicant has requested a waiver from Londonderry Site Plan Regulations 3.10.G.5, which requires shade trees around the perimeter of the parking lot and a minimum ratio of 20 feet of parking lot perimeter. Staff supports the waiver, and I will make a motion. The motion is that we grant the waiver to Londonderry Site Plan Regulations 3.10.G.5. And the reasoning is there's not a detriment to the public good.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
You have a second, Mr. Chair.
I have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. Waiver number 1 has been accepted. I'll take a motion on waiver number 2.
Can we have a quick discussion on that first?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Do you want us to go ahead and vote on the
Yeah.
waiver, or do we just want to withdraw that and look at doing a 22-foot wide?
So I would be fine if the applicant withdrew the waiver. A condition would be that I want to see that they are still meeting turning radiuses for our public safety vehicles by reducing their roadway width to 22 feet, I believe is what John had said. Is that correct, John?
Correct.
Okay. So, do we need to make a vote on that, or you're
Chair,
gonna?
if I can withdraw that waiver, please.
Yeah, please take note, the waiver's been withdrawn. So we're through waivers. We've got 2 conditional use permits. I'm looking for a motion on a conditional use permit to allow the multifamily residential and commercial 1 zoning district. This use is permitted by CUP per LZO 4.1.2, provided the criteria in LZO 6.2 are met.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we grant approval of the conditional use permit to allow multifamily residential use in the commercial 1 zoning district, tax map 7, lots 74 and 75, zone commercial 1. Gilchrist Londonderry LLC is the owner and the applicant.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion, I have a second. All in
For
favor?
discussion, please?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Just for the record, the staff recommends this.
Thank you. While we're discussing on the CUP, this is a commercial 1 zoned area. Some things outside of what is being asked of here could be something the size of a Hannaford's or a Staples would all fit inside of this site plan.
It'd be substantial and generate a lot more traffic.
I would tend to agree with you, sir. All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
You have a second.
I have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. The conditional use permit has been accepted. And then I have one more multi-residential use COP. I'm looking for a motion to grant the approval of conditional use permit to allow multifamily residential use in the C1 zoning district, map 7, lot 74 and 75, zone C1, Gilchrist Londonderry LLC is both the owner and
I think
applicant.
you're on the CO district.
Oh, did I just read the same thing twice?
Yeah.
Must be 9:40 at night.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, you got the one, right?
I will make a motion to grant approval of the conditional, of the conditional use permit to allow, I'm falling down the same pathway as you. Okay, here we go. My wheel doesn't move as fast as I do. Motion to grant, I'll make a motion to grant approval of the conditional use permit for approximately 675 square feet of wetland impact for the construction of a 67-unit multifamily residential development along with associated site improvements. And the recommendation for this is coming from the Conservation Commission.
One minor correction on my part.
Yes, ma'am.
It should be wetland buffer.
Wetland buffer.
Wetland buffer, okay.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. The CUP has been accepted. And last but not least, I'm looking for a motion on the site plan itself.
We're gonna have a couple of ads.
Yeah, there's going to be some amendments on this, so I'll make the motion, and you help me with the amendments. Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to grant conditional approval of a site plan to construct a 67-unit multifamily residential development along with associated site improvements. 50 to 52 Gilchrist Road, tax map 7, lot 74 and 75, zone commercial 1. Gilchrist Londonderry LLC is the owner and the applicant, in accordance with plans prepared by Bedford Design Consultants dated December 12th, 2023, last revised May 6th, 2024, and we have some amendments to.
Would you like me to help? Okay.
Yes.
So I have adding the windows in Freeboard to sheet SD 2.1.
Yep.
I
It's a
have-
freeze board.
Freeze board, sorry.
Freeze.
Floodplain language in my head. Decreasing the aisleways to 22 feet, so long as it is compliant with the fire department turning radius. And establishing an agreement with Meg Properties for access to the
Pedestrian access.
pedestrian access. Thank you. To
Anything
the
else?
Hannaford's property.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Before you vote, would it be possible, again, we're sort of putting ourselves in a predicament here, would it be possible to make that condition with Make Properties to ask them? And if they agree, we will make that physical connection. If not, we certainly will create a path on our property.
The walkway.
Like a walkway
Not a
on our
path, a
property.
walkway.
A walkway on
Sidewalk.
our property that sort of dead ends at our property line, and they can walk the last 5 feet or 10 feet or whatever it is on the dirt.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
I absolutely feel as though that's fair.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
So work with Meg Properties?
Work with Meg Properties. Irregardless, there's gonna be a path or a sidewalk or a walkway up to their lot line.
Within their own
Yeah.
property.
Within their own
Got it,
property.
got it.
Yes. So, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Fantastic. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. You have an approved site plan.
Really appreciate the board and everything you do.
Thank you, sir.
You know, project's been difficult.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving along here.
Quick question, kind of a point of order. So the sidewalk along Gilcrest,
So to be clear, there's gonna be a sidewalk along Gilcrest. They're gonna work with, and this is a little outside, this is not public comment, but I'll allow it. They're gonna have a sidewalk along Gilcrest,
No, they're not.
a pathway
Within,
their,
there is, let me, can I
Their
be clear?
property.
Kelly, please.
There is no sidewalk proposed along Gilcrest Road. There is a pathway that the board has conditioned this approval on within the private property that is 50 and 52 Gilcrest Road.
Thank you. All right, we did the continuance for the warehouse building on Rockingham Road. We are on to other business. We've got the Woodmont Commons annual update. Mr. Smith, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
How
Kevin
are you?
Smith, consultant with the Woodmont Commons Project. I'm also very cognizant that I am the only thing standing between you and the second half of the Celtics Mavericks game right now.
What's the score?
Let's go.
50-51 last time.
Oh, wow.
Took a check at halftime.
So it might be a close game.
Might be. With me tonight also is longtime counsel to the Woodmont Project, Ari Pollock. And we're also joined tonight by Zoom by Lucy Gallo, who is going to give the first part of this presentation, which is the annual fiscal update for Woodmont. And hopefully we'll see Lucy's picture here any moment.
Good evening, can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear, Lucy.
Great. Well, my camera's on, so I'm not quite sure why you can't see me, but I apologize for that.
That's all right. We don't need to see you. We just need to hear you.
Just
Well,
the
the-
Zoom
Turn it
I,
down.
I first prepared the fiscal analysis for Woodlawn Commons in 2013, so this is my 11th year in coming back to the town, and it's always a pleasure. For the annual fiscal update, it's always a team effort, and I'm very grateful to Kelly, to Mr. Campo, and to Ms. McKinney at London Erie Schools, as well as others that have gone into in helping me prepare this report. So if we'll just turn to page 4, just as a reminder, the report is prepared annually in conjunction with the fiscal matters and the Woodlawn Commons Development Agreement, which outlines the requirements that I'm to follow in preparing the update. On page 5, a reminder that the methodology was established in 2013, and that's one of the requirements that we are required to follow. As a reminder, this fiscal year 2023 report covers the period July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. And I'm looking at table 1 now at the bottom of page 5. The population, resident population in Woodmont Commons was about the same as last year because the Baldwin did not open for new residents until October of 2023, which was after this fiscal period ended. So the all of the impact related to the Baldwin and those new residents will be reflected in the fiscal year 2024 fiscal update. And looking at table 2 on the next page, on table 6, we'll have updates related to for the 2024 update to Deary Medical for a full year. Deary Medical opens to the public on June 1, 2023, so we only had a short month of activity for Deary Medical for this update. But both Deary Medical and the Baldwin will be reflected in full in the next year's report. I'm looking at table 3 now on page 7. And you'll, because the assessment period, there's a lag in the assessment year and the fiscal year. So for purposes of the fiscal year report that I'm presenting tonight, that is based on the April 1st values, April 1st, 2022 values, as shown in table 3, and you can see the difference in 22 and 23 in terms of the assessment periods. You'll notice the tremendous increases due to the Deary Medical and the Baldwin coming onto the tax rolls. So for the fiscal period we're looking at now, $355,000 was the property tax revenue that was generated by Woodlawn Commons properties for this fiscal year. And there are details of the parcels that comprise the Woodlawn Commons for both the 2022 and the 2023 April 1st periods are reflected in the appendix. The town also earns $38,000 from the motor vehicle permit fees to round out our revenues from the project. So as I mentioned earlier, DPFG works very closely with town staff to identify any incremental costs related to the project and how that may affect the town. One way that we do that is shown in table 4, where we do a detailed comparison of how the staffing positions would have changed over a period of time as a potential indicator whether or not the town was incurring more costs. So for this fiscal period, we didn't identify any incremental personnel costs or other incremental operating costs as a result of our analysis. That could change next year, obviously, when with the full operation of Deary Medical and the opening of the Baldwin. In 2020, the new Central Fire Station opened, so we do an allocation shown in table 5 of that cost to Woodlawn Commons that we worked out with the fire chief in prior years. And table 6 is the recap of the town revenue earned by or as a result of Woodmont Commons in fiscal year 2023 compared to the expenditures. And because the annual net revenues were almost $400,000 for this period, no amounts were due to the town under the terms of the development agreement. And the remainder of the report, then we do similar calculations on the Londonderry School District. For this particular fiscal period, there were 19 public school children living in Woodmont Commons compared to 16 the prior year. However, there were no applicable incremental operating or capital expenditures as a result of Woodmont Commons on the school district. And again, if you're interested in looking at more detailed tables related to the taxable parcels, they're in Appendix 1 and Appendix 2. I know I went fast, but I'm certainly open for any questions, you all. I think maybe used to seeing this report by now, so I don't want to belabor any points, but I'm happy to ask any questions that might be helpful to you.
Board, do we have any questions yet?
No, looks
Seeing none.
good.
Keep moving. That's all she has? Fantastic.
Yes,
Kevin,
sir. That's it.
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Thank you very much. The board does not have any questions for you.
Thanks for your time, Lucy.
Absolutely. I'll see you next year.
Take care.
All right.
All right, Mr. Smith.
All right, moving into the second part of the presentation. Kelly just wants to load up the PowerPoint.
Took one out. He's bionic.
Me too.
All right.
Working?
It's
Look at
working.
that.
Awesome. All right, so just a quick recap of where we've been between 2013 2022 for some of the newer faces that are on the board. The PUD master plan was approved back in 2013, and in that time, tens of millions of dollars in infrastructure improvements occurred in the area. If you recall, this was all apple orchards, no roads, no water, no sewer. So all of that had to be put in. There were roadway widenings that the developer paid for out on Route 102, as well as on Gilcrest Road and Hampton Drive. And then, of course, all of the private roadways had to be put in as well. You had the redevelopment of the Market Basket Plaza, which included the liquor outlet store, Annie's Hallmark. You had the additions of TJ Maxx and Home Goods, Olympia Sports, which, of course, is not there anymore, and then Enterprise Bank on one of the pad out parcels. You had the Orchard at Woodmont, which is a 28 single-family home subdivision that was built by the Stabile Companies out on Gilcrest Road. You had the building of the 87-unit mixed-use building, which was sold to Rhino Capital Group out of Boston in 2022. 6-0 Brewery was one of the first tenants in. They continue to go strong. And then planning for Exit 4A, when DOT took over in 2014 is when that really started ramping up from its inception back in the 1980s. So thankful to DOT and the funding for finally coming along for that. And this is just from the town's GIS, kind of fun to look at. That was from 2013, that aerial view. And that was from 2023. New for 2023, the Baldwin Continuing Care Retirement Community received its certificate of occupancy, as well as Derry Medical Center, Derry Medical Center 1, I should say, opened up to the public in 2023. If you haven't driven through the Baldwin yet, hopefully you have. It is an absolutely beautiful facility. I believe they plan on having a ribbon-cutting ceremony in October, but they have their full occupancy now. If you take a look at this picture here, I know you're probably thinking you know where you've seen that backdrop before, and if you guessed the Abbey Road cover to the Beatles, you're right. Few more buildings, few less trees, but historic site. And then, of course, this is Derry Medical 1 from Michael's Way, and that's from the backside as well. And then this is just an update of the western downtown portion, if you will. Everything in yellow there are buildings that have already been built. And this is the kind of the master plan layout that's been approved by the town thus far. Tony, you got a specific question there?
Yeah, I'm colorblind. I'm good, thank you.
All right.
Where's 102 in that?
So 102 would be on the right. You can't see 102, but it's beyond Market Basket on the right. And then on the left would be Pillsbury Road. And you can see part of the old Apple packing barn.
Okay, got it.
What's currently under construction? Wood Partners, which you all approved last year. Finally under construction. They broke ground. They're going like gangbusters out there. If you've been through the area, that'll be 264 market rate apartments with a completion date of late next year. Derry Medical Center 2. You've also conditionally approved this as well. They are partnering with a Boston-based medical group that will be leasing that entire space. I'm not at liberty to say who that is yet, but I think you'll see a formal announcement coming sometime within the month. And I expect them to be under construction this July.
Could you go back 2 slides and show me where that building is? Derry Medical Center 2?
Yep.
Thank you.
So that, Tony, is at the top of Main Street.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. Pennachuck water tank, transmission line, and booster station. These are all currently under construction to provide water for the entire site, as well as to over exit 4A. So there's, you probably saw there's what looks like a dirt stone road going up through the orchard north of Pillsbury. That is to make way for the transition line and also to get up to the tank that's being built at the top of that land there. And then the booster station is being built along Michael's Way, close to where the pond is. So you've probably seen construction trucks down there. That is where the booster station is being built. Exit 4A Phase 1 to be completed later on this year. Eversource is doing a line looping within Woodmont Commons. I know it doesn't sound very sexy, but you got to bring power to all of these buildings. And so that's a big undertaking for them to do, which the developer is paying for. And then hopefully later, sometime this year, the Pillsbury Road sewer station, knock on wood, may be under construction. I know John's been working with the federal requirements to help get that out to bid. And then here's just some, again, pretty pictures. Wood Partners. You see the construction on the left and the right with the finished product. Derry Medical Center 2. And this is where Pennachuck Water is doing their work along Michael's Way. This is Old Rum Trail, and thank you for the name. This comes off of exit 4A, and there's 2 intersections off of Old Rum Trail. This is looking east into Derry, and you can see they've already started a little bit of clearing of dirt there for where the intersections will be going. What is in the pipeline? So, Pillsbury Realty LLC, which owns Woodmont Commons, has signed a purchase and sales with a developer for 113 acres at Exit 4A. Again, I'm not at liberty right now to tell you who the developer is and what they're going to be developing, but I would suspect you'll be hearing from them sooner than later. We have multiple users that remain interested for the remainder of Exit 4A. There's approximately 86 acres, 86 to 90 acres still available north of Old Rum Trail. We've been negotiating with a hotel user in the downtown section, which would go in behind Derry Medical Center 2. If you recall, in the site plan you approved, Derry Medical is building a roadway that will get behind that. We earmarked that for a hotel pad site, and we have a very interested hotel user for that. We also have a letter of interest from a developer who's interested in doing 200 additional residential units and about 20,000 square feet of retail along Main Street. That would be on the opposite side of where the existing building is and where 603 Brewery is. And that would also incorporate a two-story parking deck, which is required by the PUD. Other things in the pipeline. Just we've had interest from a music venue user. We've had multiple interests from users that want to do some kind of athletic facility or sports court. An entertainment amusement user has talked to us. We've had other medical users reach out. A couple of banks, a couple of gas stations, and then the YMCA. We've been in talks with them for a number of years now. Again, Pillsbury Realty has offered to donate acreage to the YMCA to put a regional center over in the development, and I know the YMCA is in the planning processes right now of that.
Yeah, I have a question for you. I thought
Sure.
gas stations weren't allowed in Woodmont.
They are. In WC1 and WC1 GL, they're allowed.
Okay, because I thought they weren't allowed in any portion of the property originally.
No, they're permitted uses in WC1.
Okay.
That's to provide service for people who utilize Woodmont Commons.
Yep. Sewer facilities, you've heard about this in the past. For the East Side Exit 4A, there was an enabling legislation this year, SB 589, that'll allow Londonderry to enter into an agreement with Derry for additional sewer capacity over at the Exit 4A side. That is passed the House and Senate. I believe that all that's left that needs to be done is for the governor to sign it, and then Derry and Londonderry can do their thing. On the west side, again, we continue to work with the town on the construction of the Pillsbury Road sewer pump station. This is a public-private project in which the developer also has skin in the game on it, and that development agreement was signed in 2023. We want restaurants. This is just a sampling of the restaurants that we've reached out to. There's been more than this, but as you can see, we're leaving no stone unturned. It's interesting, the responses you get from a lot of these. They range from some of the regional ones will say, oh, you know, we're capturing Londonderry and Manchester and Nashua. And I bang my head against the wall every time I hear that, as I'm sure you do too. They see receipts from people in Londonderry at their restaurants and other locations, and they think they're capturing the whole area. And as we know, nothing could be further from the truth, because I'm sure, like you, I don't feel like driving to Manchester, Nashua, Bedford, or Salem to go out to eat on a Friday or Saturday or any other night of the week. But nonetheless, that's some of the response we've gotten. I've heard it more than, a number of times. There's cost of construction impediments right now, still staffing impediments to some of these restaurants. And then some have simply said they want to see more activity before they'll make a commitment. I firmly believe they'll come, and we're working hard at it all the time to get more restaurants into this area. And I believe with the additional construction now of Wood Partners, with the other medical group coming in, and especially if we do get to a agreement with the hotel, it's only a matter of time before we see that.
Yeah, that's a good selection there. So
It's great. Like I said, we're reaching out to ones we think would be very compatible with the development. And this is just the current configuration of what we call Restaurant Block 1. This is along Michael's Way, right after you pass kind of where TJ Maxx is and Home Goods. And as you'll see, there's a site there where you can fit 5 different pads of restaurants. And there's also 2 additional pads that are still available out in front of Derry Medical Center as well.
Can you think Italian on a restaurant too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We'll put Italian in there too.
Or an Irish one?
Well, actually,
Finished
we had talked to the owner of the Peddler's Daughter and had multiple conversations with him. Ultimately, he passed on it, but
How about Irish Cottage down in Lowell, I think? Not Lowell.
we'll reach
That's
out
a
to
good
whomever
one.
you want us
That's
to
a
reach
good
out
Let
to.
them do the selling.
Yeah, come on.
Ann wants you here. Get here.
How about Tuscan Village?
we need it.
Invite them up.
Yeah. Doubtful Joe's going to put a restaurant here, but hey, you never know. Amendments to the PUD. So, the PUD now is over 10 years old. And as we've gone along, we've found some things that we think need some tweaking. I wouldn't say any of these things are substantive. But we are working with staff first before we come to the board with any of this stuff. But, things like looking to combine certain sub areas that were maybe arbitrarily drawn on the PUD. Clarification on accessory dwelling units, some amendments to the current signage, and just some housekeeping updates. For instance, the PUD has a whole section on density without exit 4A. Well, now exit 4 is going in, so it's kind of a moot point. So these are things that will probably be back to the board again sooner than later, but we want to work with staff first, get these things worked out at the staff level before we come in.
We've gone 10 years with the, 11 years with the master plan with no changes. So
Right.
that's a pretty
Yep.
good run.
Yep. Questions, comments?
Board.
Couple of questions for you, Kelly.
Sure.
So with the water line coming down from the top of the hill and the sewer line and along Pillsbury Road, what development is that going to accelerate? Are we going to see any houses starting to be built north of Pillsbury Road?
Yes, I think we will. I think we will see the residential start north of Pillsbury Road. The other thing it does is it opens up the rest of the downtown area to be developed. Absent that sewer and water line, there isn't a whole lot of flow left. I'm talking under 20,000 gallons, 20,000 gallons per day left for the west side, which is not enough. So that'll open the rest of that downtown to be developed, but it will also allow those, the single family homes north of Pillsbury. Yep.
Anything else from the board?
I think it sounds pretty good. It's progressing. So.
It is. Yep.
It's good to see some positive movement up there for sure.
Well, and the other good news is it's revenue positive still. I mean,
Absolutely.
that's the whole idea of these updates.
Yep.
And,
Absolutely.
So outside of all the feel-good stuff, the real thing is positive, so thank you.
Kevin,
Yes.
Kevin, that original section of Exit 4A, Section 1, that's not going to be open yet, though, right? It has to be after Section 2 is completed?
So what DOT has told us is that when we have a user who's ready to build, they'll allow them access to build, and when they're ready to get their CO, they will make arrangements to open that portion up for there to be public access before phases 2 and 3 are completed.
Will it be able to go into Derry at that point or not? No?
I don't think so.
Okay.
DOT hasn't said what their provisions are of opening it. All they've said is when it's ready, if it's before phases 2 and 3 are completed, we'll open it.
Okay.
We'll figure that out. We'll talk. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good enough, thanks.
All right, you mind coming up real quick?
Good evening.
How are you?
Very good, thank you.
You were here all night, so I just wanted you to come up.
Oh, it's nice to see you too.
Nice to see you.
Especially
sir. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Have a good night. I hope the go Celtics.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah.
Kevin, thank you, sir.
All right.
All right, folks. We have appointments. We have 2 applicants for interviews of the Southern New Hampshire alternate. I did get an email from Patrick while we were in here, and he said he did have to leave. It sounds like he had a rather long day at work.
Mr. Chairman, or recuse myself from this conversation?
Absolutely, thank you. Please take note that Mr. Wiles has recused himself, and I will appoint Mr. D to vote.
He's already voting.
Oh, you're already voting, yeah. So we're good. We're good to go. One of the other two alternates.
Yeah, I noticed Patrick has a excellent CV here, or some people call resumes, and it spells out everything that is required on the talent bank questionnaire. So I think I am satisfied with Patrick, and that would be definitely a good addition from the police perspective and the traffic part of it.
I agree with that.
Okay.
He's a good guy.
Motion?
And he did answer every question, so that's a positive sign.
Would we like to have an interviews, or is board comfortable deciding on some, making a motion?
Well, I think we need an interview with Mr. Breslin, because he has nothing at all down
Absolutely.
He's been waiting a couple of years.
Oh, yeah. So, Mr. Breslin.
So yeah, I'm sure he's got something to say about himself.
Come on up, sir. Good evening.
Ray Breslin, 3 Gary Drive. Okay, so I put in for this as a volunteer. And I think Southern New Hampshire Planning is a very important organization that has helped the town of Londonderry multiple times, and probably they're helping us maybe right now. Not at this hour, but I oftentimes attend a lot of the meetings anyway, just as a member of the public. And I try to pay attention to what's going on and how Southern New Hampshire Planning can assist the town. And now we're talking about an alternate position, which I'm willing to show up or participate. There may be others who have better qualifications, which is fine. That's your decision. And let me just ask, are you required to be at every meeting, or whether it's in person or?
I will defer to Mr. Rugg over here, because he's much more familiar with Southern New Hampshire.
You're not required to be there every time, but there's an expectation that you will be, in frequent attendance, so you know what is going on. Certain individuals can't make it. If you can't make it, call Linda Moore O'Brien.
Right.
Let her know why you can't make it, and you get on the excuse list.
Yeah.
So you notice on the minutes, there'll always be those in attendance virtually, those who have been excused, and those that haven't been excused. So that's how they keep track of things. And if there's a lot of delinquency of any member with no explanation, the commission will ask that town, what is this person doing? You should, probably maybe select another individual to fill that spot.
Yeah.
I know they're looking for, I think, Hooksett and Auburn. I think they're been looking for people. They might have them, but there's 2 towns that have no one representing them. And when you're there, you represent the town.
I would say an alternate member. The whole reason that you have an alternate member is to fill in when other members can't be there. So in fact, philosophically, I look at an alternate member as they have to be there more often than a regular member to fill in when it's necessary. You don't know if it's necessary usually until the meeting. I do have one question, though. Is this correct? It says expires 12/24?
Yes.
Correct.
Alternate term is for one year. It'd be the 1st of January to the 31st of December.
It's been vacant for
So then this would become open again in December? And you would have to put another person,
Yeah.
you'd have to revote, or whatever?
You have to revote.
Reappoint. Yeah.
That's by statute. Anyone wants to know anything about planning commissions, read RSA 32. I mean, 36.
I'd rather just ask you.
32 is the budget.
Yeah, it's much easier to ask you,
I'd
Art.
rather just ask. It's much
There's a lot in there, and it's detailed. That's what governs planning commissions.
All right, so the point is, it's June. This will go another 6 months.
6 months,
And then
5
there'll have
months.
to be a reappointment.
Correct, yep.
Got it.
Yep.
All set.
Yeah, my question is, Ray, what skills or expertise that you have that will be helpful to the commission?
Well, that's a very pointed question. And what skills do I have? Well, I don't have a lot of education, but I have a lot of experience.
That's not a prerequisite, so, you know,
Right.
it's usually like, what's your education and experience counts too, so
Yeah.
don't be afraid of that at all.
Well, my experience is I worked for Detroit Diesel. I traveled around New England. I traveled around the country. I traveled around the world to a certain extent, working at power plants and water treatment plants, and working on emergency generators for the nuclear industry. We produced power plants for the nuclear industry, for the telephone company, Western Electric. And I mean, that's kind of my background. As you probably know, my concern is with the town currently is particularly with water and sewer.
Yes, I
which-
think
which
we're well aware, and I think we're fortunate and glad that you, you know, point that out, so.
Yeah, and speaking of, I think we spoke a couple of times this evening about the town master plan, which I was appointed, I think by you, Art, on the implementation committee when it was.
Yes, because I think it worked on one project, which was the town forest, town common, and then it seemed to flounder for a while, because Chris Davies was chair of it, and Chris then stepped down, and I think there was floundering, and probably the planning board was not paying that close of attention, because the board is basically busy, so.
Well, I don't know if it was
Are
floundering.
you considering
or not,
applying
but,
again?
You know, we were working on other issues. Mike Speltz and myself were kind of working on water issues, but then we didn't get too far because I think it was given to the planning department at that time, but the planning department had.
Ray, I gotta, actually, if I just want to kind of bring us back to the Southern Hampshire Planning Commission, and I absolutely appreciate your, you know, what you bring, and what I heard from you, you know, is that you've attended a lot of the Southern Hampshire Planning Commission meetings.
Yeah.
What do you hope to bring, experience, education aside? You know, you have a lot of experience. You're at these meetings constantly. You're at all the town meetings constantly. What do you hope to bring, and how do you hope to represent Londonderry on the Planning Commission?
Well, I think that with my, you know, obviously you pointed out that I show up at a lot of meetings. I oftentimes have something to say because I think it's important to ask legitimate questions, to speak, to bring the conversation forward to others. And I think that's really important. Personally, I would like to see the young people more involved, but that's something we would have to talk to the school department about. I'm not going to get involved with that.
Oh, I thought you were mentioning me being a young person being involved. But
Yep.
I'm
Yeah,
totally-
and when you graduate from high school, maybe you can,
Well,
you can be part of the commission.
You're relatively young, yeah, but you are involved. But, you know, we're talking about, you know,
Jake's involved too.
we're talking about the future.
Yeah. So
Okay,
like, so
and
more civic
what we
engagement
can
from.
do in making some of these decisions or helping others to make these decisions, you know what I mean? And when I speak, I try to speak politely. Sometimes I'm maybe a little too pointed.
You're always, in my opinion, respectful.
Yeah, you're
and-
always respectful,
Very
Ray.
respectful.
You know, I try to be. You know, I appreciate what you folks do. You're volunteering your time and your expertise, and I'm not sure I have the expertise that you folks do, but I think if I can.
You come to our meetings, Ray, so you're probably picking stuff up.
You can learn something new every day.
Yeah,
Right?
that's true.
So, I mean,
You're a two-cycle expert, so. Those old Detroit diesels.
yeah.
Well, and you have a passion for this town. You come, you show up,
Yeah.
you keep abreast of what's going on, and you really keep us honest. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate you volunteering for this position, too.
Yeah, and, you know, even if I wasn't appointed, I would probably still show up. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I know that for a fact, so.
Yeah. You know, if there are others that are more highly qualified, I have no problem in you appointing someone that you think has more qualifications. That's fine. That's fine.
Yep, we get two openings, so, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion if you so desire.
Do we have two?
Yeah, I thought it one opening.
One opening.
One
have one
opening,
Yep.
one opening.
One opening that expires in December.
I thought there were two, because Jeff is a alternate. We have three alternates. We have three alternate positions.
Can you confirm or deny that, Kelly?
Been informed, we have one vacancy for an alternate.
So I would like to see the proof behind that.
Okay, I would reach out to the Southern New Hampshire Regional Planning Commission.
Yeah,
So let's do that before we make any decisions here.
yeah, because I know there's been differences between and I mean, Linda keeps great
Yeah,
records.
you can reach out to Linda.
Yeah, I can, yeah,
Yeah, I thought there were 3 alternates
Yeah.
that we have.
three alternates. I will call Linda tomorrow.
So let's do this. I think it's fair to interview the other candidate, number one, so I don't think we should make any decision tonight. Two, I would like to see some clarification on, and Art, we will leave that ball in your court, because you sound like you know who to talk to up at the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission.
Well, Kelly does too, so.
Let's get a confirmation as to whether we have 2 or 3 open vacancies for, one or two open vacancies for the position. So let's have that for the next meeting. Let's ask the other applicant to please come back for the next meeting.
Maybe we should do that early in the meeting if the applicant.
Yeah, that's fine, because, that's fine.
Meeting.
I would be fine I know we have this special meeting on the 26th. I'd be fine just doing, because we only have one item on that meeting, correct? So I'd be fine, if the board's all right with it, I'd be fine putting a
Should be quick.
5-minute interview in there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause we've already interviewed Ray, so.
Yeah,
Should be
exactly.
quick.
Ray will probably be there anyway, right, Ray? Ray, I appreciate you, sir.
Don't forget, Ray, special meeting on the 26th. Special meeting on the 26th, right here, 7 o'clock. We're hoping you're gonna be here.
Technology again.
All right.
Yep,
So we don't need to make any motions on that for the time being. We'll wait for our confirmation as to how many members we have, because there seems to be a little bit of confusion there, and we'll hear from the other applicant on the 26th. Anything else, folks?
I have one.
I have Well, no, I know what you're gonna say. I got one more before you say it.
Go ahead.
For everybody that's still watching at home, please don't forget that the application deadline is on June 26th for the Master Plan Implementation Committee, Steering Committee positions. Mr. D, the floor, sir,
So,
is yours.
So I have two things. One, and Lynn, I would like you to come back if you're so inclined, 'cause I'm gonna be asking for a motion. I would like the planning board to recommend that the town council look into the possibility of putting stop signs on Gilchrist Road.
Okay.
If you'd like to abstain,
I'll
I
abstain.
understand.
Yeah.
But I would like us to have them, at least, to John's point, is it gonna make it worse, is it gonna make it better? I would like to move that agenda forward,
Sure,
forwarder than waiting till July
sure.
for a traffic study, because I believe town council has a mechanism in place to be able to pull the trigger on that. They will decide that, but I think they do. So I'd like to make a motion, I'd like to make that motion.
Can I,
Can I mention something before you do that? I'd like to have the public involved, see what they want.
Well, that would
town
be the
would do
council.
that.
Yeah, okay.
It might be appropriate for your council liaison to raise it when he gives his liaison report.
No, but I want the planning board to have a vote that recommends it.
I'm
Yeah.
saying with
Yes.
the consent, whatever the consensus of the board is.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely, sir.
So, what would you think about looking at other alternatives to stop signs as well? I take it your goal is to reduce the speed of the traffic on Gilchrist
Correct. And the safety.
and the safety. And I still say, traffic circles, I think, are a nice way, my preferred way
That
of
would be
doing it.
land taking, though. I'm trying to do it on the cheap.
Good point.
Potholes.
But are there other options?
Because, for example, at Gilchrist and Tokenau, across the street is Boston? Charleston. I knew it was a city. There's also an opportunity for a crosswalk there as well.
Yep.
And so I think
Do you
you
think
have that, and then you have the new development that's gonna go in is in a natural four-way intersection, that's another perfect spot. But to John's point, does it make it better, does it make it worse, does it, whatever, I'd like somebody to look into that, I'd like to fast track it. There's really no reason to have to wait till July to go to a committee that's advisory only anyway. Let's get to it, let's the same way it happened in Old Mammoth Road. Let's fast track it.
To be fair, though, with Old Mammoth Road, they had citizens come in. We talked to the community on that. Well, I wasn't on the council then, but I was at the meeting and talked to the community at the time and made sure that they got their feedback on that. I actually think they had came twice on that, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
So it did take a little bit of time.
Oh, absolutely, and my intention would
A lot
be
of time.
to just.
Oh, so we don't have to go to traffic safety to skip that step
Exactly,
and then get to.
exactly.
Gotcha.
Don't have to go to
So-
the advisory
Yeah.
committee, I
So,
think
so
is
what
what
we're
he's.
saying is, maybe, this board is saying to the town council, please take a look at it. I fully expect the town council to have one or two public hearings
Okay.
noticed and whatever after somebody study, I don't know who does that. Because we don't have a king, you have to have studies and stuff instead of. just
We
doing
don't
it.
have a king, but we do have John.
So, and so,
I
you
just
said
got
that, you
3
said that
emails,
out loud, I
thanks.
can't. So anyway, so anyway, I would like this board to take a vote to recommend to the town council that we take a look at Gilchrist Road, to your point, for mitigation of traffic, if you don't wanna use the word stop sign,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Mr.
Right,
D.
because it
Francis-
could be electronic speed
So is it
signs too.
Consensus of the board to bring this to the council?
Well, I think he wants a motion, so we should make a motion on it.
So move.
I wanna make it official.
So move, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Chair votes in the affirmative. Mr. D, I think that's phenomenal.
Thank you.
I think it's for options, not,
options.
not just,
Just
stop
those
signs.
Two
I said the street.
intersections. yeah, the
I
whole-
said for
the whole
Gilchrist, I said for
street, yeah.
Gilchrist Road. That's just my ideas.
No, great idea.
There's people, well, there might be a few people smarter than me that can do it better, and that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, it's to solve the problem.
Yeah, the other thing I want to say, Mr. Chair, is I want to make it a matter of public record that we had tonight 2 sessions of public hearings. Public hearings lasted 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 22 seconds. And I would like to make that public record that this board afforded that to the general public tonight.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Yep, very good, Tony.
So with that, folks, do we have anything else from the board?
I'll make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
So, I need a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The board is adjourned. Have a good night, folks.